Ann Demeulemeester shebang. So Ludovic de Saint Sernin, he was the creative director of Ann Demeulemeester for like literally a few months. And recently, like 2 days ago, essentially he left, or let's say they parted ways. And what I really wanted to talk about before like reviewing Ludovic's show is actually to talk about the timeline of what has happened with the brand, because there are some really interesting facts that get us to this point that we're at now and why Ludovic was even hired in the first place. So kind of like basic knowledge for like people that don't know, because I understand that different types of people watch this stream. But Ann Demeulemeester, if you're new, is like my favorite designer. She's a Belgian woman. She's part of the Antwerp Six. And she left her fashion brand in 2013, yeah, and left it in the hands of Sébastien Munier, who then became the creative director. But Sébastien Munier there was always a plan for Sébastien to take over. And in 2010, they hired him to be the head designer for the menswear line. And over time, they sort of mentored him into the role of creative director. So that's kind of what's happened. But in the business side, I think is where things have been messy. So there's a woman named Anne Chappelle, and she had a business called BVBA 32. You might have heard of this company because they also owned Heider Ackermann. And I think it was I know it was in the 90s anyway, that I think 1994, yeah, that Ann Demeulemeester basically went to Anne Chappelle and asked for financial help. And that's when BVBA got involved in the brand. Now, it started well at first, but as time went on, it just started to get worse and worse. And I mean that in every aspect. So when it first started, they were making a lot of money. Everything was good. And then so many issues started happening with the partnership. And I heard a rumor, it's like not confirmed, but I heard from a trusted source that the relationship between Ann Demeulemeester and Anne Chappelle got so bad that Ann Demeulemeester literally like ejected herself from the brand, like didn't want anything to do with the brand, essentially just like left it. And the quality control was horrible. Like I collect Ann Demeulemeester, so I have experience with Ann Demeulemeester from every era. And when it was bought by BVBA 32, the earlier collections were really high quality, but over time, the quality literally year on year just got worse and worse and worse and worse. And Ann Demeulemeester is not cheap. It's very, very, very expensive clothing. So when you're charging over $1,000 for a coat and the quality is terrible, the sizing was horrific. Like the sizing of Ann Demeulemeester literally used to be like one shoe, I might wear like certain boots and it's an EU 46, which is my usual size. And then another boot might fit me and it's an EU 40. So like you can never buy anything online. You have to go in the store to try everything on. Even when you try everything on, it's still confusing because you ask for your size and it's too small, too big. The sizing was a complete mess. It was so bad. It seemed like in the factory, people were just attaching random labels to random garments. That's how bad it got. So why it's really important to mention all these like issues is because this is why it made sense for the brand to be bought. And Antonioli bought the brand in 2020, Claudio Antonioli. And he, if you don't know, was a big fan of Ann Demeulemeester. Claudio was actually one of the first people to stock the brand. So that's why he has a good relationship with Ann Demeulemeester and just like the family in general, like Patrick Robin and stuff. And he almost bought it as like a passion project, like not wanting to see a brand that he cared about dying. So that was kind of how it transitioned from being managed really poorly to actually having someone who has a bit more competence in running fashion businesses. Because when Claudio took over the brand, literally in like 6 months, they moved production to Italy. They made a flagship store in Italy as well. There's also, they renovated the store in Belgium. I've been to the store in Belgium. It's really good. And all the quality control issues just completely were erased. Like now the quality of Ann Demeulemeester is amazing. It's back to like how it was before. And I'm like, how did Claudio just like improve the quality of this brand so quickly when Anne Chappelle had this brand for how many years and the quality was just getting worse and worse. And what I don't like is Sébastien Munier, who was obviously head of menswear 2010, became the creative director of the brand in 2013. I think a lot of people blame him for the brand's demise in terms of like financially the quality going down. But you need to remember that Sébastien Munier is a fashion designer. He's not head of logistics or head of, you know, the factory or quality control. Big companies like that have people that are supposed to take care of that. As a creative director, that's not your job. So I don't know why Sébastien Munier got like the blame for things going badly when I know so many Andy collectors that loved his work. It's just that people stopped buying the clothes, including me, because it just seemed like a waste of money. It was just like, why would I spend $1,000 on something that's made so poorly? And that's, once again, nothing to do with Sébastien Munier. Like, when it comes to business, and I think a lot of people forget that fashion is a business. As a creative director, you only have so much say in like where things go. You can like creatively design a collection, and then the business side might come and use like a cheaper fabric because it saves them money or it helps with profit margins. That is what goes on behind the scenes. So obviously when Claudio took over, I guess he didn't want to go in the direction with Munier, or just wanted like a different direction with the brand. So that's when Munier left. And then it was just like a design team in-house, sort of like the Margiela vibes. And they were just designing collections that were really good, by the way, because something we're going to get into later is Sébastien Munier's aesthetic and Ann Demeulemeester's aesthetic, completely different, but kind of similar at the same time. Ann Demeulemeester was more like gothic, more dark, asymmetric, silhouettes, more of a focus on like very hard and rough tailoring. Sébastien Munier is kind of like the opposite. Sébastien Munier like used more color. He used softer fabrics. He liked silhouettes that are more flowy. He did less. Ann Demeulemeester had like a more, and we're going to get into this when we talk about Ludovic. Ann Demeulemeester had more like sheer fabrics and like really, there was more of a sensual, sexy side to Ann Demeulemeester when she was designing, where Sébastien Munier like didn't design that way at all. And so there's a big divide with people that like Ann Demeulemeester. There's some people that like only Andy's era. There are people that like Sébastien Munier's era. Then there's people that are like similar to me, where I appreciate both. So that's what did I have some friends who've been through that when the order returned from manufacturing, not the fabric they chose. Yeah, exactly. That always happens with business. It's more bad business management than it is like the fault of the designer. And I thought it's important to mention that because I think a lot of people don't realize that. And then moving on to like what happened with Antonioli. So Claudio basically fixed the brand, all the brand's problems, but there was one thing that he did that was kind of like a big risky move. He pulled a lot of the clothing from a lot of stores. So I have a few friends that used to stock Ann Demeulemeester, and the brand got pulled from their stores because Claudio wanted like more of a focus on people shopping directly with the brand so that he could take control of like how customers are treated and stuff like that. So he reduced the amount of stockists that Ann Demeulemeester had. Whether that's a good thing or bad thing, we'll see in the future, whether that was a smart financial decision or not. If there's one thing I know about Claudio, he knows a lot about the fashion business. So I would suggest that there was probably a reason behind it. And so the next question became, okay, Sébastien Munier has gone. There's a design team, but there's not really any buzz around the brand. So who would be the creative director of the brand? And I thought the whole time that the creative director of Ann Demeulemeester would be Olivier Thijskens, because Olivier is a Belgian designer, one. Two, he has a lot of experience working at different brands. So I think he's worked at Nina Ricci. He's worked, I know now he's at Azaro. He's worked at Rojas, I think. And his aesthetic has that like gothic, sensual vibe that you associate with Ann Demeulemeester. So when Ludovic was announced, I was like, that makes absolutely no sense. Like, it literally made no sense to me. Like, it was so confusing. I was like, Ludovic is not, like, his customer base is so different to Ann Demeulemeester's customer. When I think of Ludovic, I think of very, not that it's bad. There's a lot of Ludovic stuff that I like, but I think of very skinny, white men. That's all I think about when I think of Ludovic. Whereas like Ann Demeulemeester, the customer base is really diverse. It's not very specific to a certain body type. Like I've probably never been skinny in my whole life, and I love Ann Demeulemeester, and like I'm wearing it now, and I can wear it easily. Whereas I feel like Ludovic is only really skinny people that can wear it, and it's only designed for skinny people. So that was also a thing that I was like, I don't know how this would fit. And I think that brings us to the collection that he designed, because he only had one collection before, obviously, he left. So I'm going to put that on the screen, and we're essentially going to work through that collection. And it's kind of strange because that collection has actually grown on me. At first, I don't know, I wasn't the biggest fan of the collection, but the more I thought about it, the more, because I thought it just didn't really represent what Andy is, but the more I like looked into it and like took the collection, and I was like, actually, that is very Ann Demeulemeester. Like that is a very Ann Demeulemeester aspect. So let me just get it on the screen for you guys. One day I'm gonna be famous enough to have like some tech person that like does all the screen stuff behind the scenes, but till then, I'm gonna live this like broke student life. Lack of body inclusivity. Yeah, that's what I associate with Ludovic's work, to be honest. Oh, Philippa, you like the collection. What did you like about the collection? Hopefully I don't get demonetized because there's a lot of like nudity in this collection. The first look, this was really interesting, like the feathers, because a lot of you might not know, but feathers are really important to the house of Ann Demeulemeester. She normally uses pigeon or like cock feathers, like traditionally she did. If you look at like the spring summer 1992 collection, I think this was a reference to, there's like this sort of net bralette made of feathers. And the reason why Ann Demeulemeester loves using feathers is she says like, it shows like this idea of being a free spirit, but at the same time, like it's like soft, but it's like really powerful and it keeps people warm. And like she appreciates the qualities of feathers. This whole like hands covering the boobs thing, that seems on the surface very Ludovic, because Ludovic's work is all about like being, is all about being sexy and like sensual and stuff like that. But it's actually just a reference to an old Ann Demeulemeester look. Like, I think it was spring summer 2003. There were models who were like covering their boobs like that, and that was literally what it was a reference to. Because a lot of people I saw online were saying that's not very Ann Demeulemeester, and I'm like, Ann Demeulemeester herself literally had a look like that in spring summer 2003. So you can't say it's not very Ann Demeulemeester when she did it herself. So it seems to me that this collection really was just referencing old Ann Demeulemeester collections, like everything, even down to the tailoring. We've seen these looks before, down to the use of like the wool and the fur. I've seen looks like that in the past from Ann Demeulemeester. There were these like V-neck looks, and I've seen something similar in the Ann Demeulemeester, I think spring summer 2002 collection. And it's so weird because like Ludovic, that is Ludovic. Ludovic makes these like V-neck things, these like very sheer fabrics, these like sexy things. He sells a lot of like thongs with his brand. Very big in like the European gay community, that sort of stuff. So on the surface, you look at the collection and you see, oh, it just looks overly sexy. This is too Ludovic and no Anne. But actually, all of these pieces harken back to an Anne collection, which is so like funny. Even like, okay, spring summer 97, for example, if you go back and look at that collection, a lot of the looks, Ann Demeulemeester used sheer fabrics and you can literally see the woman's boobs. So when Ludovic did that in this collection, people were saying that it's too Ludovic, but like Ann Demeulemeester literally did that. So over time, I feel like this collection has grown on me, not because it's necessarily good. I think if you're just going to make a collection that's like Ann Demeulemeester best hits, then we don't need a new creative director to do that. Like anyone could do that. So I wouldn't say like there's anything impressive about this collection at all, because it is just like re-referencing old looks. But people saying it's not Ann Demeulemeester, I think that's just completely wrong. Like it's not right at all. Let's see what people are saying. I liked how it was respectful of the references, but at the same time, they were kind of on the nose. I don't think they were on the nose at all. I think they were very direct references, if I'm going to be honest. Like what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the looks of what I'm talking about after, and I might put them side by side. Like this look, for example, Ludovic has had a look like that in his collections, but Anne has also had a look like that. And it made me think that even though I thought that Ludovic wasn't a good fit at first, the more I think about it, the more I'm like, oh my gosh, like a lot of what Ludovic designs for his own brand, Ann Demeulemeester has done for her brand as well. And it like messed with my head. It seriously messed with my head. Wait, Ludovic is hailed as the king of diversity. By who? What? Since when was Ludovic the king of diversity? My lord. I've never heard that. If there's one thing that Ludovic's brand isn't, is diverse. That's one thing. This is a good point that people brought up. Why do the models look so much like him? So because I'm not too familiar with Ludovic's work. Obviously, I've looked into it for this like live stream, but I have a friend who's like really into Ludovic's work. And I was asking my friend about, just like, tell me about Ludovic. What do you think about Ludovic's work? I know like you wear some of the stuff. And what he told me was that some collections, sometimes Ludovic's work can sometimes come across like it's more about creating a certain like fantasy of like this like skinny white man goes on the beach at Saint-Tropez, and then it becomes more about the models than it is about the clothes. But why my friend likes the clothing is because Ludovic has this like attention to detail when it comes to tailoring. And so at the surface, you might just see some like sheer piece, but it's like tailored like a suit, even though it's sheer. And it's like the structure that my friend really likes about it. But he also said that like criticism, like sometimes it's more about the models and it's more about the bravado around the brand than it is about the clothes. And that's why some of the collections are like hit or miss. So my friend tends to like one collection and the next collection like doesn't really like it. So it's funny you brought up the models, because my friend literally told me that sometimes it's just too much focus on the models. I think so too. I think people didn't get that with Ludovic. That Ann Demeulemeester was obviously a big influence, but this is part of what I mean. People don't look back far enough. Yeah, I guess so. I guess so, because a lot of people might be looking at what Ann Demeulemeester is doing now, which is basically harkening back to some aspects of what Andy did herself. And then they're also looking at Sebastian Munier's time, which was completely different. So yeah, I think it is good to like look at the whole archive of Ann Demeulemeester before saying that it's not Andy or it is. Hopefully I don't get demonetized, by the way, because a couple of like tits. We'll see. I'll probably get demonetized, but who cares? That's one thing I don't like about reviewing Ludovic collections, because you just get demonetized. Too much boobage. I would say it's a conflict of aesthetic similarities. Yeah. I would agree. But it's funny because initially, like I was saying, I didn't think that it was similar. I just didn't think it was a good fit. Like I said, I thought Olivier Thuyskens would like be perfect. But the more I think about it, the more I'm like, actually, no, I was probably wrong to think that. And actually, there are more similarities than there are not. But going to why I think they parted ways, obviously, I said earlier that in the BOF article, they were saying that there was a rift between the Andy management and Ludovic. I've also heard that he struggled to balance work between Ann Demeulemeester and like his namesake brand. I've also heard that a lot of brands weren't interested in this collection, so a lot of stockists didn't pick it up, and so things don't look good in terms of like sales for the season. Because as you know, the way it works, things don't have to hit stores before you know how much is going to sell, because buyers put in orders almost immediately. So you can kind of like gauge how well a collection is going to do, like almost like within the first month, based on how many buyers like want to buy the collection and are putting in offers. Who's the CEO of Andy? I don't know who the CEO of Andy is. I just know what Antonioli has said, like Claudio has said about where he wants the brand to go. Like he did an interview when he first bought the brand, and he said that he wants the brand to have the aesthetic of like the Ann Demeulemeester he remembers. So like harkening back to Ann Demeulemeester herself, the way she used to design. And that is very clear in like all the collections since Sebastian Munier left. And it also makes a lot of sense why Sebastian Munier left in the first place, because that aesthetic is completely different to what Claudio wanted. It's a bit like when two different people wear the same clothes, but it feels so different. Maybe the whole energy and casting makes it different. Yeah, I agree, because why I don't think of Andy when I think of Ludovic is because Ludovic, once again, when I think of Ludovic's work, I just think of Anne Chappelle. I don't think she's the CEO of Andy, because she like runs BVBA 32, and it got like Claudio bought the brand from her. So I don't think she's even involved with the brand anymore. And I think that's also a big reason why the family is involved with the brand now. Because I spoke to one of the family members. I'm not sure if she wants me to say who, but I spoke to one of the family members of the brand of Andy, and she was telling me basically the same thing, that for a long time, Andy and Anne Chappelle, there was like a rift. So she wasn't too involved in the brand. And when Claudio bought the brand, she like really was open to being involved and like giving her input on things that she thinks he should do and he shouldn't do. And like when you go to the flagship store in Belgium, a lot of the stuff, like some of the stuff has been designed by Patrick Robin, which is Ann Demeulemeester's husband. Then there's like the Ann Demeulemeester like Serac section on the right-hand side. So there's a big collaborative effort with the family and like Claudio, because they have a good working relationship. Basically, everything that could go wrong with Ludovic's tenure did go wrong. Sorry, I was saying earlier before I talked about Anne Chappelle that why I don't think of Ludovic when I think of Ann Demeulemeester is because I just think of skinny white men when I think of Ludovic. I don't think his casting is ever very diverse. I think, like someone mentioned earlier, and I was speaking to my friend, a lot of the models tend to look like him. They have his physique. So it's not diverse, and I just don't see, because when I think of Ann Demeulemeester, I don't think of one like a Belgian woman. I don't think of that, because it's way more diverse than that. And there's so many different types of people that identify with Ann Demeulemeester and the aesthetic and can wear it and fit into it. In fact, what drew me to the brand initially was just the fact I could fit into it, because when I got into fashion, most brands that I liked, like the idea behind, I couldn't fit into it. Like I couldn't fit into Margiela. I'm just too tall and like too big. So I couldn't fit into Margiela. I couldn't fit into a lot of like a lot of brands. The only brands that I could actually fit into were Yoji, Rick, and Andy, and that was it. So that just lets you know how like diverse those specific brands are, and the different types of like people that can wear those brands. Looking at what new guards group and the customer they went after, Claudio did not mess with the customer. Ludovic de Saint Sernin was bringing in different core competencies. Yeah. So the thing about you're saying different core competencies, so it's so interesting, because this is also something I was thinking about. Apart from just me, when I was initially thinking Ludovic wasn't a good fit, it was to do with like the market, because the Ludovic customer and the Andy customer are so far apart, And that comes down to when I was telling you, like, who wears it. Like, I feel like it's skinny white men that wear Ludovic's brand. And I feel like, and it's a very specific skinny white man that wears Ludovic's brand, where I feel like Andy is way wider. It's like so many different people wear Andy. And the Andy girl is not gonna wear Ludovic really. So it's just a bit odd in terms of like trying to mesh those two markets and audiences together. Did he get a campaign together? Any marketing? There was like a campaign, but it was like it was just Ludovic, a portrait of Ludovic, which is kind of weird. This is I had a conversation with one of my really good friends. He's like a fan of Andy as well, and he said that he said that Ludovic is not Adi Slimane, in the sense that Adi Slimane is famous enough and prominent enough and has a cult following to the level that, and he's basically just been around for long enough to where he can go to Celine and bring his whole market to Celine with him. Ludovic does not have that kind of power or pull or drag yet. So this idea that he could like bring his customer base, which is very different to the Andy customer base anyway, and bring them to Andy, I think that was like a bit of a pipe dream, to be honest. Dami, you all right?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me on my mic? Or am I low?
Hello, hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Jesus, Mother and Mary. This is not a flattering angle. No. We're here to talk about Ludovic. He was there for 100.
Yeah, Ludovic.
Since he was there for 170 days, he does not deserve a good angle of me today. Like, the designers that get past a year deserve a good angle.
What's going on in fashion though? Like so many like Luigi at Bali and like Ludovic at Andy, Jeremy Scott left Moschino. Like what's going on?
We have Tom Ford, we have Gucci, we have Benjamin and Scott left Trussard. Everybody's leaving, it says. Everybody. Nobody.
It's crazy.
I love it, honestly. Bruno left Lanvin also. Everybody, you know what? Give us 2 months. There's only going to be Maria and Virginie Viard in Chanel, and that's it. No one else. No one else.
Oh, someone said, I think I would have loved to see other collections by Ludovic, maybe an evolution. I feel like we can't judge his vision by just his first show. Yeah, I agree. Because once again, I agree and I kind of disagree, because the first show, even though, like I said, it was a lot of referencing to Andy's collection, it just so happened to be the type of collection that Ludovic would design for his own brand. So it didn't necessarily show any range, or it didn't show that Ludovic is capable of like doing anything else, to be honest. So if I'm going to be honest, I just would have thought that the next collection would be more of the same from Ludovic. It would be sheer fabric, sexiness, a lot of skin.
It would be Slutty Ann again. I'm sorry.
Yeah, a lot of skin.
Guys, I don't think that we're missing out on like Riccardo Givenchy. Let's be real for a second. Was he a good choice? Somewhat. But I don't think that it was like the revolution of Ann.
Yeah. Dammy, you're muted. I can't really hear you. Still can't hear you. I don't know why.
Dammy, where's your assistant? You need to have an assistant at this point.
I'm going to see if I can get some of the looks on the screen that I was talking about in terms of like the looks that Ludovic is referencing. So it doesn't come across like I'm just talking out my ass. Talking out my ass.
Alley girl.
Okay, I can hear you now. Dammy, I can hear you.
Yeah, so Devin Morin, he
Very low.
Yeah, your audio is very low, sir.
Are you sure you want me to turn the audio up?
Yeah, turn it up.
What does it sound like now?
Okay, it's fine now. It's fine. It's fine
Yeah,
now. It's fine.
all
now.
right. That was only halfway. You know, it's better to start lower than You know what I'm saying? I'm loud enough as it is. But Charles left Rojas, yeah, Rojas in it,
Yeah,
Yeah.
like just recently as well, which
on
is
April 22nd.
yeah. You know what's a funny exercise that everybody can do here? Go to BOF and then where it says search, just write exits, like the word exits, and then you'll see all of the exits that will happen this year. It's actually interesting.
Tom
It's like
Ford.
we're not even like got us. We're barely halfway. Like, what's going
It's
on?
stuff like this is not supposed to happen.
Yeah, it really shouldn't be happening like this, but yeah, I do have my thoughts and theories of it all in terms of like just what fashion is going through right now. And we have two of the major, well, to be fair, only America is the major buyer of fashion, more than the UK is. But yeah, most places are in a
I think
recession.
China's probably the biggest.
Yeah, China is the biggest,
Yeah.
and China hasn't slowed down. They thought China was going to slow down after their shutdown, but they didn't. But in terms of how people are dealing with this downturn in terms of economics, it's like,
Right.
can you exist without a creative director? Possibly. And if you
Right.
can, if you're doing about the same, then yeah, you should exist without a creative director for some time, because the main thing about a creative director is not to be this artist that is like, oh, just doing the airy fairy thing. It's like creative directors make products, and they make products look beautiful. They present them in the way for the consumer, for the person that's watching the runway show. As much as the runway show is for how would you say, marketing and all of these other things, it's that rollout of the presentation, if you allow me to use that, and obviously the stockists and all of these other things. But I think the LDSS, tenure is a real showing of like what could possibly go wrong, and the article from BOF really details out, all of the things that could go wrong during a creative director's tenure at a house.
But wait, question:
Yeah.
who do you blame, really?
Blame
Management or him, or both?
I don't know, because I think this management is actually really good. Like I said, they like fixed a lot of the issues that Andy had under Anne Chappelle. Once Claudio like bought it, a lot of the issues got ironed out really quickly. So I think the management is really good. I think they know what they're doing. To be honest.
But by the same time, then like in that case, like, wouldn't you? For me, honestly, and I'll be brutally honest, if there are Ludovic fans out there, I'm sorry. For me, this is embarrassing. Me as a management, I would be embarrassed by this, because this is the shortest tenure that I've seen in the fashion history, which is 170 days. Which means that somebody in the management, maybe, if we're blaming it on management, did not do their homework, or Ludovic just like didn't feel like going with it any longer.
I actually believe that Ludovic,
no one's winning in this situation.
Ludovic should have protected his job a little bit more. That's my thing. But someone in management is gonna have to eat it, so it's not the whole of management, but it is someone's responsibility to like and pick this person. And yeah, like, but in a way, they could either say that they wasted money or saved money by cutting him off at this 100-day plus mark.
Right.
But for sure, someone in management is gonna have to eat this L. But he only stayed there for 1 quarter, and that is very telling. Because if you're not getting stocked, and then the next season that you're gonna have to create, like right before you have to create the next season, let's just, what I'm saying, cut this all off and say no. You can't make more clothes.
What I will say though is that and this is like from people that used to stock Andy and stuff, when Claudio took over the brand and he like pulled a lot of the clothes from a lot of these stores, a lot of these people have like personal relationships with the family, like they really love the brand, and when Claudio pulled it from these stores, they had like a bad taste in their mouth. So he's already created a bit of a situation where there are some people that love Andy but don't necessarily like Claudio. And so when it comes to like when you're in a financial situation where you need to sell and you've basically fucked off the people that loved the brand and stocked it before, it's kind of harder to get them back.
Makes sense.
Yeah, there is
By the way, can
like
people in the comment section, can they let me know if you can hear me well? Because then I'm gonna move.
Oh no, I can hear you fine.
Well, yeah. This is.
I'm just showing on the screen some of the looks that Ludovic was referencing, and like just showing that there is like a sexy Anne that does exist.
Yeah.
But yeah, Dami, continue what you're saying.
Yeah, my thoughts is that when we're talking about these creative directors, especially in the downsides, I'm not necessarily sure what Ludovic was thinking, because when his feather pop-up feather bra, whatever it's called, was on the red carpet, people were like, oh yes, seeing Slay, all of these things, and I'm kind of like Hunter Schafer wore it, right? And I was kind of like, this isn't enough. And obviously I'm like a little bit of a villain, so like people kind of take what I say with a grain of salt, but in all seriousness, like you should be making things that not just that you like, but the people that you're designing for will like, right? Because he has his own house, and if you look at where his own house clothes are stocked, his own products are stocked, then and whether they sell out and how many times he produces a year, you'll be able to see the story about what his actual business practices are. And I don't know whether you really mentioned this. I went away before I came back to the stream, but or should I say before I came on here, but obviously he's a nepo baby, and there is these things that you may skip when you get part of the helm of such a big house like this, or should I say such a lauded house, right? So Andy isn't the like level of house that's able to waste money like that. So they're
Do you know something? It's really good you brought that up, because I don't know, does Ludovic have experience being creative director of another brand? I don't think so, because his own brand is quite new.
No.
So like that's why I always thought Olivier Deiskens was a better fit, because he's been at so many brands like Theory and like.
Well, Ludovic did intern at Balmain.
Balmain, yeah, worked with Olivier, yeah,
something like that.
Yeah,
but then
he worked with Olivier for like 2 or 3 years, I think.
Yeah, and I think that like he worked on like embroideries and stuff. But then like he created his own brand, but he was never like ahead of any brand like Anne.
But this is the thing, like if you're gonna be ahead of a brand, or not even ahead of the brand, like when you're working under someone, and you should like embroidery, not to like throw any shade, but it's not the part of the brand that's gonna make like a product and show like, oh yeah, this is a money maker. Like you're really like, you'd have to be head of like, let's say bags or shoes, like Alessandro, or like what's his name? What's the guy from Bottega again? What's his name again?
Daniel Lee?
Yeah, no.
Matthew Blazy.
Matthew Blazy.
Matthew Blazy, yeah.
So like someone who makes products and is like really like the products that we're selling, those two made, right? And then it makes sense that, oh, when you're the head of the house, then the products that you made when you were there for like however many years will be the ones that are selling, because you're great at that particular thing. And that is what people buy into when it comes to, just buying certain products from a house. And, their products are popular. But in terms of Balmain, like they need like people that do embroidery, right? Like there's a lot of embroidery that goes on at Balmain. So it's like one of those ones where it's a all hands on deck situation. And I can probably tell like it's a bit of a tiring job as well. So it's not to blame him, but to say that after you do that, then be at the head of a house, it's like, please, like, let me see your balance sheet first, at least. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Is that Andy's Instagram?
Yeah.
I didn't even like the collection like that. The collection wasn't really to my taste.
Like I said, it's just like re-referencing old Andy looks and stuff, and like this is the campaign that like Ludovic did.
He just got the position.
Why is he, you know what I'm saying, what does these pictures do for Andy?
I don't know. You're asking the wrong person.
Like, why is he the face of the campaign? Like, if we really study this, like when we start talking about, oh, what does a creative director do, even if it's just of shoots and campaigns, like you're
Yeah.
spending a lot of money for these pictures to go everywhere, and what you're doing is putting your face out there.
But I think that campaign was only when he got the position. It's not
Yeah,
like
yeah,
the
yeah.
actual, like campaign that's going to go on billboards and stuff. I think that campaign was just like, hey, he became a new creative director. This is the news. Let's put him in some Andy clothes.
Isn't
And
it a bit weird that they
That
did like
campaign
a
was
whole
everywhere.
shoot for that though? Yes, it was a
That
bit all
campaign was
over, yeah.
everywhere.
very weird. I agree, but it's him. And
Like,
but it's him. But I think that like he's trying to create this like online persona that like Olivier Roustan has or Jacques Mus has, that kind of like marketing strategy that who's who caters to skinny young gay twinks.
Yeah.
at least do
I
something
mean,
first. You got me. Like, this is the thing though. Like, okay, I'm looking at the campaigns, and like, there isn't another campaign apart from that one.
yeah.
I'm pretty sure that
Yeah,
was the
yeah,
one.
yeah.
Like, everything
Yeah.
else is the lookbook, right? I'm pretty sure. Like, oh man, see, don't let me get started, man. Let me
Oh,
leave it
there you
alone.
go. Feathers.
Feathers. But I do think it's important to kind of note, like, and this is no shade to anyone that wants to be an artist and like do artsy fashion and all of these other things, but it's like I wrote in my article and that's dropping, and on my story, it's like, yo, these creative directors, they're meant to be there to create these products, right? And if you're not able to do like particular things, it kind of it works against you. It's at your detriment to be artsy. Like Margiela and McQueen had to sell off their name for them to stay artsy. If that's the path you want to lead down, cool. Like, them guys have some of the best legacies in fashion. However, if you're gonna be now the head of a house, like, McQueen got fired from his first job because of the way that it was received. And that's the type of stuff that happens when, unfortunately,
You're talking about Givenchy, right?
yeah,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
unfortunately, you're not. Oh, maybe I should have said that. Depending on, yeah, but
No, that's cool.
unfortunately, yeah. You should be able to be at your place, understand the position of a creative director,
Correction.
and all of these things.
McQueen did not get fired. McQueen left.
Okay.
Yeah, McQueen left.
Okay.
McQueen left because he sold his brand, so he was not supported by
Yeah.
yeah. But I see
He
what you mean.
basically
But
he went behind Bernard's back and
I
stabbed
see
him
what you
in
mean, Danny.
the
But
arse.
I think McQueen is not a good example when it comes to Givenchy. But I see what you mean. I get what you mean.
I get what you mean, because it was probably likely that McQueen was going to get fired eventually, even though he didn't, because like it wasn't really too well received. Bernard didn't support him or care. Like, he was focused on John Galliano, and like, so you could see like the writing on the wall.
Yeah, but yeah,
And
when I
writing
look
on
at
the wall said, "Bah."
that's funny, like JW Anderson, Virgil, and Alessandro and Virgin seem like the best creative directors right now. Well, not right now, but like in general that we've had in recent times, based upon what they were able to create and the fanfare that they get from their consumers. But yeah.
True. That's very true. Especially Virgil, dude. That's going to be, dude. All eyes are going to be on Pharrell. I swear to God.
Oh my gosh.
All eyes are going to be on Pharrell. And the way that internet is going to have a field day, even if it's a good or bad collection, people are going to make it better.
Yeah.
I'm telling you.
They're going to make it bad because obviously the snobbery of like, oh, he's a celebrity designer.
Oh,
regardless of what he puts out, he can't win.
It's ridiculous.
It's just one of those things.
It's ridiculous.
Are we all going to be in Paris for then?
I definitely will.
I'm not sure yet. I'm talking to a couple of brands.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. We'll be excited to see all of you
Dude,
out there.
Liz Truss, I made that meme where like where she's like, I am a fighter and not a quitter.
Yeah, and
And
not a
like the
quitter.
next scene, she's like, I am resigning. And I had to
I'm resigning. Liz Truss is exactly a similar situation because how long does she last in office? Like
44 days.
yeah, 44 days. So there we go.
That's crazy. But yeah, it's still I'm still laughing at that. So.
Someone said, I can't see Pharrell being at LV for more than 2 years. I agree with you. I agree.
But why these brands need to just like settle, like let someone just create an actual vision. It's
Correct.
too much like jumping between creative directors and like too many random visions. Like it's so hard to like even build a customer base when the aesthetic changes every season.
All the time. That's the thing. And
The
now, especially.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi, Al.
Yeah, hi. Yeah, I've
And
been
now
in the chat
especially-
just trying to do like backseat driving with regards to like product or marketing, whatever. But I think like this story is just like I think it was a personnel thing. I think maybe someone like in the corporation was like there is like a lack of what did they use in terms of a Hollywood movie when somebody like basically leaves in a huff? Creative differences or something like
Oh,
that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a situation like that where it's not necessarily the product because it's like I think even the marketing after like some of those red carpet appearances, like the marketing engine never got behind the collection, right?
Right.
And so like let's say like the wholesalers don't believe in the vision quite yet and they don't stock that much or like you can't like identify a key item that they're going to be pushing, right? Like do you give this person another show to save face? I think so. Like 2 collections are, I think,
Exactly.
is generally where you want to be.
Yeah.
Right. Like the man. Gosh, I'm blanking on his name, but the man at Bali who recently also.
Ruiji.
Oh, Luigi, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like you give them a couple of collections so that like they can you can at least say that they had their voice. And that it makes you look better as like a company for having hired them because you saw something in their vision. Because nobody like presents without having a vision for the first couple of collections, right? Like nobody just shows up and has like one piece, and then everybody in the room goes, "Okay, that's going to sell." And if it doesn't sell, then you move on. Like there's always a vision for like how it would grow, who the new customer is, how we want to reach them in terms of communication. Like that's all part of the creative director pitch. So it's kind of been like a personal issue where somebody didn't want to continue working with them on that, I guess, proposal, like on a personal level, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to start saying that it was personal, but I will say that I don't believe that Andy is the size of company to like be playing with their finances, especially considering the way that Claudio was very shrewd with the way he just chopped off and trimmed all the fat off the business and, you know, decided to go direct to consumer and do all of those other things. Like he doesn't seem like the type to use money where it doesn't need to be spent. And, you know, yeah. And if when he says, when they had okay, let's say they had creative differences in the collection, and you know, Ludovic said, "I'm backing my vision," and they were like, "Okay, you can back your vision, but it's your butt on the line if this goes pear shaped." And then you know he has the red carpet appearance, and you know the stock it didn't get well received by the stockists and all of these other people. Then he's the one that's holding the bag. And at the end of the quarter, like boom, like that this happens a lot, like in terms of when you have a corporate position and you have this 6-month probationary period. It's like, what were your numbers at the end of the time? What have you accomplished in this time? And if you haven't really accomplished that much, then boy, it's like we can shake hands and you can leave.
Yeah, but what you can do there is before you announce that, you know, he's gone, you find somebody else who's going to take over. So it's not just immediately a weird gap where now you're scrambling to hire somebody else. You keep the people who were keeping the brand going, the menswear designer head, the womenswear designer head, and you keep the continuity of product through the wholesalers. Like there's like I think a vision to like a show that, you know, you have your shit together, but the immediacy, I think, made it feel like if they didn't announce it immediately, then Ludovic would go to Instagram and announce it there personally himself. Like it felt like that sort of energy where they were trying to get ahead of something.
It's just like you can see that there's no plan B. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Honestly, and that's kind of concerning, to be honest, because you know, as I said, this is not embarrassing just for him, for Ludovic. This is embarrassing for Ann also. You know, like you're kind of like
it looks like you're incompetent if you fire someone after one show.
It looks like you admitted that you made a wrong decision.
Yeah.
You know, 170 days, and just as you said, like you do not have his vision after one season. You don't have his vision after 2 seasons. Like after 2 seasons, you might get, you know, expectation of what to see next. But I think that's just like poor management decisions, or it could be Ludovic. I mean, to be honest, we don't know a lot about Ludovic. We know him for his own brand. We don't know how he is when it comes to like collaborations or like working with others.
Yeah.
He may, you know, he may be like super determined on like his own way. But so I think that like it just leaves everything in the air, like what to do next.
If it were me,
I think like a lot of
I would say that Andy shouldn't rush to get a new creative director at all. Like take the year out.
Yeah, do you know why? That's why I put this show on the screen, because this is like spring summer 23, and this show was designed by like just the design team, no creative director. And so many people love this collection. Like people are like, oh, this is the best collection we've seen in like years. And I think that was part of the reason why Ludovic's collection wasn't taken so well, because the collection before was so good.
Why don't they just do that then?
I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, like obviously the best people that know the brand are the people that are within the brand.
Yeah.
You kind of don't need to have. I mean, I love her. I love Maria.
The problem is that you make it more of a product house than a directed house, right? Because when you have too many cooks in the kitchen and there's not a clear leader, you start like getting the tussles and tug of wars for power and all of these other things, right? And that can, you know, end up quite badly. It's the same
like
thing with like
Gucci, for example. I agree with that.
Well, it's also like I think the obvious movement was to offer a new product line, right? Like I didn't think this product line was going away. I thought that like it would be added to with like, you know, more sexed up silhouettes, which is what we got in the runway show, and we maybe get like a quarter of that ever being produced and made available to the public, either through their own e-commerce or through wholesalers, because I don't think there are any Andy boutiques as it may be.
Oh no, there
like,
are.
I felt like
2. Italy and Belgium and Antwerp.
Interesting, but no one's slated for opening in say Korea or LA.
No. Yeah.
There was no further like growth of the brand to accompany this attempt at courting a new generation of clientele, of courting basically the clientele that I think you would be wanting to court if you hire LDSS, right?
Do you know what? That's such a good point, actually, that you brought up, because when I think of Andy, I don't think there was any plan to expand past that, because you have the reason why there's a store in Italy is because Claudio is based there. They moved the headquarters there, whatever. And then the reason there's a store in Antwerp is because there's always been a store in Antwerp, and that's where the brand is based, and that's where it started. So it makes complete sense to be in those markets, but I've not heard any mention of like expanding past those 2 regions or outside into like trying to make the brand bigger, like globally.
My thing is, like, I would like to ask a question though. You said that Ludovic was caught in a younger generation and a new clientele. Is it just because his clothes were in quotes different than what we would usually expect, or Did he say that he wanted to call a younger
I think it's
clientele?
because Ludovic is one of the like young cool kids, like new designers on the block type
Yeah.
thing. So
It's his aesthetic.
yeah,
So I think like
I mean, the twinks are basically Gen Z and under, right? Like it's just like it's like an aging out process that you kind of go through. But I like
Winks in this
Andy is
channel.
millennial and up. Like it really is, right? Like
yeah,
there's
true,
not like
true.
necessarily a younger clientele. And if you want the younger money, the people who are on TikTok, the people, you know, who are posting with the greatest velocity, who are setting micro trends that like get people to consume quicker and with you know, more turnover, then you know you'd want somebody like who's already playing to the age group, right? But the references that he's going after, I think, just aren't necessarily connecting to like now a wider audience now that he has like a bigger stage.
Right.
And which is why I brought up in the chat that like maybe it would have made sense to, before kicking him out, like at least have him have a go at some
Sure.
not even necessarily in the mainline runway shows, but just some sort of collaboration to like give people like a cultural touchstone to kind of connect with him and his vision that isn't necessarily just having me pull directly these kind of references to the archive, which does require a degree of sophistication and knowledge of the brand already. Like the point is to communicate Andy to newer people. Why isn't that communication kind of more, you know, I guess at a level that makes a more immediate sense?
Can I ask a question then? What if they didn't have the
No.
money to do all of that stuff? I was gonna ask anyways.
I feel like they just ran out of money. It feels like like a show where they ran out of animation budget and we're moving on a slideshow.
I feel like it's a cultural thing though.
The problem is that like there is a budget for the quarter, for the 6 months, for half a year, and for, you know, for the year, and like for the next 2 years, right? Like, you know, there and abouts. If you know how much you can make in, you know, one quarter, you can project out for the rest of the year, and then you can project out for the next 2 years there and abouts. And if the money ran out, then the money kind of just ran out. Like and he doesn't, and you don't spend more money than that core, or else you're not a profitable company. And to be in a growth stage, that means you actually have to be making a good amount of money and not want to be profitable. Like one of the main things about being in a growth stage is to actually be in debt. And that means that they're actually betting the house on this young guy, which is quite difficult, right? And if we go to another person that people like, you can say maybe they're betting the house on, it's Maximilian at Ferragamo. So if you look at his first collection and his second collection, they're just starkly different, right? And one of those things is that, you know, he may have acquiesced to how they preferred him to create these collections. But Ferragamo, obviously,
and also probably what the buyers are buying as well.
Yeah, literally all of that and more. And Ferragamo just probably has a bigger runway than Andy, and that may not have needed to be as profitable as quickly. Like there are companies that need to be profitable this quarter, or else they go out of business, or they just break even for the year. Like we're saying it like Andy is this huge conglomerate style company when it probably isn't. Actually, no, it isn't. It's not. It's not.
It's not that big.
Yeah, I agree.
It's quite a niche, you know what I'm saying? So, you know, being in Paris would make sense fairly, and being in Italy would make sense. Outside of that, then being direct to consumer is probably the best strategy, or not even strategy, because that's not really being direct to consumer is not a strategy, but operationally, being direct to consumer and figuring out how to actually ship to people is probably best for you, like from directly from your ateliers to, you know, your distribution network, and being able to do all of that and then, you know, grow from there. Because you said Claudio really knows how to run fashion businesses, right, Ayo? So
yeah,
then there's probably a plan in motion for all of that. And, you know, maybe Ludovic didn't really fit into all of that. Like, shout out to creative differences and all of that stuff. But sometimes I don't blame the businesses for certain moves that don't look nice for the artist. In terms like, and this is coming from someone who does art. Like I understand certain things just based upon that. Like, I know if I don't make a certain amount of money in this quarter, I'm done. Like it gets like that sometimes. But yeah.
Yeah, I think the thing with Claudio is like different things as well. It's the fact that he has so many different parts of like New Guards Group, for example. So he understands production. He has a lot of contacts and like connections in that space, which is why he could fix production issues at Andy so fast. Then he has a store, so he knows about like branding and like merchandise. Like he basically has his hand in like every side of the business, which is why I think that he's so good at like the business side of fashion. I think maybe appointing designers, that's a whole different thing, but I think that business and creative people are a bit different, especially in fashion. I think maybe he needs someone that can help him more on that side of things. But in terms of like the business logistics, running a business properly, how much to spend here and there, I think he was one of the people that initially founded Off-White from the ground up, with like all the other members of like New Guards Group and then Virgil Abloh. So business-wise, they know what they're doing. Like Off-White is a massive brand now, and New Guards Group is a massive company.
Off-White, unfortunately, did not launch with tailoring and dresses and red carpet campaigns. Like it's a whole different level of ask as to the spend, as to the manufacturing, as to the distribution. It's just like we never even got to the point where I think the first collection was in stores. Like even if there were two stockists, boost the stockist profile, pay for like a whole like booth to be installed DSM style in there, to kind of, show like the world that LDSS has imagined for the brand. Like there was just no further attempts at communication, I feel, past
I'm
the
getting
runway,
flashbacks to the Phoebe Philo conversation. It's giving me mad flashbacks.
Let's get Phoebe out of this, guys. Let's not. That poor woman.
Is she still showing, by the way? Not to
they're marketing her in the same way, though. They're taking pictures of her like she's Matthew Williams and putting her all over Instagram. It's the same marketing.
Those pictures of Matthew Williams when he came up, I swear to God, people like he's like the Messiah.
He was a meme. They're like, he thinks he's Jesus. Like they memed him.
All of us. And then the first thing he does, he's like, no more couture. I'm like, fuck my life. These pictures were not about that. I was confusion.
Someone said the real problem is that namesake brands are just closed when the OG designer leaves the house, but they don't, and the brand just turns into a money machine without meaning only focusing on archives. I think it depends. It depends. Some brands, that is the case, and then other brands, I think it's been amazing that we've been able to see. Like, Yves Saint Laurent at Dior was needed. But we don't get that if, like, every brand has to die with the fact. So, I get it sometimes. Like, personally, I think McQueen should have just died with him, to be honest.
No.
That's, like, hot take. But I think some brands, though, I think this is different. I think it depends what brand.
No, the day you decide to give up a portion of your company, it stops being your decision.
Yeah. But Hanan, just to go deeper on that, do you know why I think that it should have died on McQueen? It's because, like, I just don't feel like, hot take again, Sarah Burton can lace McQueen's shoes. Like, in terms of, like, what I mean by that is, like, when Yves Saint Laurent took over Dior, as much as we think Dior is like this great designer, it was common knowledge that Yves Saint Laurent had more skill. Even Dior was like, oh my God, you designed this collection because you're just so good. Like, it's almost like Dior submitted to the talent of Yves Saint Laurent. So, like, when you're going from a designer who's a great designer to another designer who's on a similar level or higher, it, like, makes sense how it can continue. But, like, I just feel like McQueen is just, like, miles better than Sarah Burton. It's just like, it just feels like a massive downgrade. Whereas when Yves Saint Laurent took over Dior, it didn't feel that way.
But I do think, well, I think that like that's a lot different, because I think in when you look at Saint Laurent and Dior, I think it's a fact that Saint Laurent is a better designer, skill
Yeah,
wise.
yeah,
But
yeah.
I
Skill
think
wise,
like,
yeah,
the reason why it didn't work is because he had a vision where he's going to include more street in Dior, and people at Dior did not like that. I think
yeah,
that people are not giving Sarah her flowers, even though she's been with McQueen since 1997, and there are collections that she finished when he was
yeah,
not in the capacity of finishing collections. And even though her first collections were her best, I think that she has a great eye for what's gonna sell. And for right now, she does keep that that I'm not gonna say the skill, but I think that she keeps the identity of McQueen in a very polished and refined way. Something that McQueen couldn't have done because he was too rough around the edges.
yeah, yeah.
You
When
can
it comes to
And I
money,
think
that
also,
wasn't McQueen's strong suit.
Yeah, she
I
focuses strongly on tailoring, which I love about her, which is very McQueen. But by the same token, she has that brand. I spoke about it on my Instagram. You can recognize her pieces like this.
Yeah, I think her tailoring is amazing. I don't think she's a bad designer. I just think she's so much worse than McQueen. It just seems like she's
Yeah,
almost
she
out of
doesn't
her
come
depth.
across as a couturier. She doesn't come across with the
Yeah,
couturier
correct.
energy that McQueen
Correct.
does.
yeah,
I think that's a fair
But
comparison,
what
to be honest.
but past that, I think like also you're kind of not just comparing like can somebody live up to a particular person's legacy in terms of their creativity, in terms of like the sort of things that they were exploring, but like I think a better like decision as to like whether or not it makes sense to quote unquote continue a house is like how much of a commercial voice has been established for that house, right? Like
So,
in terms of a product offering, in terms of like what the consumer goes to the brand for, like if there
yeah,
is like a built-in like code of working for that house, then it makes sense to continue it. Or if you're trying to appeal to a heritage and you want to like basically offer something completely new with like bent towards that heritage, I think it makes sense to do that. And that's like the case with like brand revivals, right? But it's all about like I guess like how strong was the brand in the first place in terms of it as a brand, and not just like was it just people who could just attach their chariot to like the horsepower of some creative genius? Was it actually a real brand? Right? Was it built from the
so
ground up as a brand with the
mm,
product, with the way of working to kind of concretize it in a way where it does make sense as a corporation to continue?
but I think it's also about the fact that like what can you add to the existing brand? Like if you look at Dior, for example, if you look at Galliano, for example, like Galliano added a whole new era to
yeah,
Dior. After a very after Gianfranco Ferre, who was very architect. So like you do have designers that are in the brand, and they just like bring something new, some new aspect of the original design. And I really like that about Sarah. I mean, like, she has a great eye for marketing and what's going to sell, but she does it in a very refined way,
mm,
which I find super interesting. Even though, to be honest, in my opinion, she does not do theatrics because I think that she wants to keep her job, that which is great, which is very smart.
theatrics aren't good for commercial reasons because you
Yeah,
spend too much money on the
people
show,
are people
and
get
like, yeah,
confused. That's the thing.
yeah,
But I think that like if you want to talk about who would be a good fit at McQueen, I always say John Galliano would be a great fit at McQueen. He has that
I
dark
agree,
dark
I agree.
kind of like approach, and like he loves kind of like over the top fashion, which I think that he would
Wouldn't
be.
that be so ironic though?
Dude, that would
Galliano.
be a full circle.
That
That would be a full circle.
would be so crazy.
I swear to God, people never get that position, but it's interesting to think about.
I do believe
they
there's
they
something
hated each other.
like these these fashion companies. I think sometimes they're mixed up with like art and like fine art, and what running an actual company is like. If we're saying that there's a finality to fashion, then you're not necessarily running a fashion company. You're running a special project that is made to finish. Where in reality, if the company can't work without the creative director, well, not creative director, let's say in the official way, if the company can't work without the founder CEO, then it's not necessarily a company. Like, can you leave your company and it still be running and it work? Like, that
Yeah.
is one of the barometers for a good CEO. It's like, can you say, okay, I'm taking 2 weeks off, and then see your company like structure stay afloat and still make money? And that says that you actually have good operations in place. And it's the same thing with, in my opinion, with McQueen and Sarah Burton. Yes, McQueen, great, like phenomenal founder. You know what I feel about McQueen, right? And he put so many things in place in terms of how his identity was infused into his brand. And then now when it comes to continuing on that legacy, operationally, Sarah Burton creates the right products and delivers the right sentiments in the runway shows for it to, continue in terms of, longevity and, for his posthumous legacy. So like, I wouldn't wear the McQueen trainer because like there's just a sentiment in London like of who wears a McQueen trainer. But if the people that wear it didn't wear it, I would wear it. I don't know what I'm
Yeah.
talking about. But
Yeah.
that's what I'm really saying is like she makes great products. Like and it has to be said, or like damn, I forgot the designer's name of the McQueen trainer. I actually do like the name is out there, but they
Yeah.
operationally they have like great bags and great shoes and all of those type of things, so it's cool.
But like, do you think that it's different? I think like when it when a design we're talking about like designers who passed away versus designers that are alive. Like Jill Sander, it's also the same thing.
Oh
But like,
yeah.
when a designer passes away, I'm like, let's continue. This man cannot design anymore. Like let's
Yeah.
continue what he has versus there's somebody with that name and that vision still
But
alive.
this is how I feel about like some designers. I feel like they're just so good that where do you go from there? Like a good example is like Issey Miyake, who
Yeah.
passed recently. He did so many things. He innovated so many things that like anyone that's trying to be creative with the brand, you're just gonna fall short. So it's just like some brands, it's just hard. Like it's really just hard.
But you know what? I'd
But the
rather
codes
have-
of the house are so strong. That's the thing, though, with this Miyake.
So-
You can
They
continue
are,
it
but
indefinitely because the codes are so strong.
what my issue is that like Issey Miyake made whole new fabrics. He made whole new ways of doing things. He created ways of pattern cutting, and it's just like if you're a designer at Issey Miyake, you're supposed to continue that. You're not just supposed to take the codes and then just reproduce those for 100 years. Like, let's see you create a new pattern in the spirit of Issey Miyake. Let's see you create a new fabric. He used to collaborate with like mathematicians and stuff to make new like science and like Morinaga, who used to work with on the textiles. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like some brands is just like good luck. Like coming after someone like that.
Writing just stuff to piss people off in the comment section.
No,
To me, like it makes more sense, like from like a romantic standpoint of like Issey Miyake turning into Timberland. Like it makes more sense for it to continue in that direction, where like a brand with strong codes just basically can make the thing, and then they can collaborate with new designers and newer brands to kind of bring their engineering and know-how to the table and kind of like elevate people in that manner, or like Doc Martens, and they can kind of become part of like like the fabric of fashion that like will probably never go away. Like it can become timeless. And I think that's the most graceful way of becoming like a brand.
I'm very much like, if no one takes over the house, these houses are just going to be forgotten. And we have enough houses that have been forgotten, from Claude Montana to Vionnet to, you have a shit ton of houses that are just like.
Aren't they trying to bring that back, Vionnet?
I know, but like, but that's like Schiaparelli revival worked because of Daniel. If there wasn't for Daniel, Schiaparelli would be closed, I think.
Oh yeah.
They already had like 4 designers that I'm like.
They tried to come back enough times and they all failed.
Exactly. But I don't I don't want Azzedine Alaya to be forgotten. For example, as somebody who contributed to fashion a lot more than people think, I don't want a brand like that to be forgotten.
But would he ever be forgotten though? Like, okay, for example, like
We would read about
Who
it
buys?
in books because
Yeah, because I'm thinking like, okay, who still buys Charles James?
Charles James.
Yeah,
Well, no one.
exactly. But have we forgotten about Charles James's work?
As people in the public who Charles James is, they're going to be, oh my god, he's the beauty influencer.
True.
Yeah,
I was just at the Istanbul
had
Modern
that.
Art
That's
Museum.
true,
They
to be
have
honest.
books at the gift shop of
That's
Charles
true,
James.
to be honest.
Charles James is alive. People love him.
Oh, I
No,
think that,
wait,
like,
what?
Charles James is
Why
like
are we
a
doing
talent,
this,
like,
man?
no
I hate
artist,
sounding like the bad.
100%, but like people out don't know. They think that he does makeup.
Yeah, people think Charles James is a makeup artist. That's what they think.
They do. They're like, oh my god, I love this bronzer, and I'm
Yeah, like it's not like people have like, yo, I've got a Charles James book, right? It's probably one of my favorite books, and even in terms of the printmaking, but boy, listen, I've literally had someone come to me and be like, yo, James Charles, and they really mean what I'm saying. Like,
I'm telling you,
bro, it doesn't
Not James
compute.
Charles, Charles James.
They don't have the brand recognition yet in their brain to be saying like Charles James. Like when you said that, I immediately knew who you're talking about. But there's probably someone that would listen that would think, wait, James Charles makes
correct. They're like, oh my god,
Yeah.
what makeup influencer
He's got a
has
heritage house.
dedicated to him, and I'm like, that's not,
Yeah,
not
there's
true.
probably someone that was like, wait, what's Fashion Roman talking about? I've got his bronzer right here.
I think, to be fair,
Like-
you're right. Now that I think about it, you are right, because there are designers like, okay, Sonia Rykiel, she influenced a lot of like what Margiela did. I don't think anyone talks about her work, to be fair.
Helmut Lang is the same thing. He influenced Phoebe more than anybody else. So
Yeah.
like, no, like brands like that, I don't want it to die.
Yeah.
Like, just continue and just like kind of like look at Dior. Dior, everything that they did that they do today, they're like, oh my god, we found it in the archives that like he pointed at Mexico, and now we're going to
Yo, that is mad shade. It's funny as well. I'm not saying I disagree.
I think
I
you
understand.
tweeted about that, and I was
I-
laughing my head off when you're like, Maria Grazia, how she comes up with like inspiration for collections. She'll be like, I read this book where Dior pointed at Spain, and so I was really inspired by the country. And
It's very much that. He was just like, in a conversation, he talked about Guatemala. We're going to Guatemala.
You wrong for that.
Hey, the Mexico City show was actually good. I actually like that show.
I am still on the fence. You know why I'm on the fence? Like, I hate when the designers go for the jugular, when they go for the obvious. Like,
yeah,
when she's like, I'm going to go to Mexico, the country with the most rich culture and extreme heritage and everything. Amazing, amazing, amazing. But I'm going to talk about Frida Kahlo because that's never been done before. Girl.
But that's on
the-
brand. She plays to like the seats in the back, right?
But this is the thing. Like, everybody knows Frida Kahlo. That's the thing. I'm sure that Mexico has more feminists and more women whose voices should be amplified besides Frida Kahlo. Like, all of us know.
100%.
And I'm like, it's just like it looks like a cheap trick at this point. You know, I don't expect somebody who's ahead of like one of the biggest houses to go for the obvious. But then I'm like, it's Maria. She's gonna go for the obvious.
I also believe that it makes sense.
Sorry if I'm yelling.
No, you are yelling, but you're not. Your volume, you're still. You are speaking for the people in the back, but it's okay. But yeah, oh man, like, to be fair, I want to go back to what I said. Like, Izzy is
Demi's like, fuck your arguments.
no. It's like, I think of it like, first of all, like, you kind of have to go for the obvious with certain brands. Like, remember when was like Kim Jones, he done the Jordan, and he was like, I'm a classicalist, so I just done the Jordan, but I made it.
Yeah. I remember that.
I don't. But that's the thing.
I was like, no, like, and you guys know I like Kim Jones, right? So I was like, even aside, I was like, bro, there was like so many things you could have did, and this is the thing that you chose. But sometimes, like, when it's like such like an iconic brand like Dior, it's almost impossible to service everyone. So you kind of have to do the obvious thing, like they're so obvious that it's undeniable, but
But
at the
it's
same time, it's
but
so frustrating to people that like you.
But don't you think it's a cliche? Like, for example, like somebody's gonna go to France and be like, "I'm going to reference Joan of Arc." Do you know how many times poor Joan of Arc has been referenced?
Joan of Arc is rolling her
It's
eyes
like,
when
please
people.
leave me alone. I don't want to be.
Do you know what gets to me though? Do you know what gets to me recently, especially in fashion? Show notes. I can't. Like, for example, in this Ann Demeulemeester show, there was the show notes were like Ludovic's debut was like arms crossed like a dove, and I'm thinking,
Oh, fuck off.
it's just a reference to Spring Summer 2003. Stop it.
Yo,
Or like when
I'm not gonna
Demna
lie,
was like, I'm moving away from. I hate the
Fashion
the
circus.
social media and the fashion circus, and I was
I
like,
hate when he said
Demna, you are responsible for that. That is you.
Do you know who else is responsible for certain things? Oh, you are responsible for people doing show notes like that because you were like, I need the show notes. It's why can't we have the show notes so we can look at the brand?
Yeah,
and
because
understand what we mean?
do you know what it
No,
is
to be
though?
fair, we're all
I would
responsible
hope
for
that
All
hope
three
that
of us was
brands
there in
say
2020.
I'd hope that brands say meaningful things in their show notes. It's just
No.
unfortunate that they just chat a lot of shit.
It's
That's
so.
the issue. Someone said Virgil. Yeah, Virgil had some of the best
Virgil
show notes
had the
because you
best.
actually learn
Hands down.
No,
about
Virgil
what's
didn't
going
have
on in the
notes.
show.
He had
Hands
books.
Yeah,
Like, he had
it's like
books.
40 pages long.
You know what I like?
I think to like tie in like the going dumber with like the brand argument that we were having, like I think like a good analogy is like Lucasfilm, right? Like outside of like the context of fashion, like if you want something to continue, it's because you've built like if you're just retiring versus like having died and now like people are scrambling to like find a job. Like sometimes you might just be like, I want to retire. I have nothing more to offer at the current moment, so I want to have to like provide the team that I've built around me with like some way of continuing because this is their livelihood, right? And that's what happens with Lucasfilm. Like George Lucas was like, okay, nobody's interested in Red Tails. Everybody just wants more Star Wars. I never want to make it Star Wars again. For people to keep their jobs, I'm going to sell to like a company who is willing to run the machine, right? And I feel like as you do that, it stops being like a vehicle for like personal expression, and you have to start playing dumber and dumber and dumber and dumber. Yeah. And I don't think that's like an unnatural or like a wild conclusion that like a brand would start becoming more broad and try to start being more of an expansionist brand playing to more and broader audiences as the brand like leaves the control of its original creator.
Wait, so did you just agree with me? That's nice. I like that.
Shut
up. Yeah.
I know Michael hated this collection. It's like ridiculous choice of designer, like putting a square block through a circular.
Oh, Michael needs to come on the screen. Oh my gosh. Wait.
Oh my god, Michael, can you join the stream? I know Michael's gonna rip it to show.
I also need to say, like the original.
Michael, if you can join the stream, I'll send you the link on Instagram.
The original point that I wanted to make, right, was based upon, when we talk about Dior and all of these other places, like the places that we love, but at the same time, they're like too big to even fathom what is going on behind the scenes. It's like there was a land grab, obviously, like everyone knows, back in the 90s. And now, when it comes to these new ones, because it really just started with people trying to decipher how to mix French heritage and the heritage of Europe in terms of, their major spaces and put them back into the fabric so that they can make money. It also happened with the watch companies after the quartz crisis, right? But now we're learning how to do that with brands that, we kind of want to continue to seeing, but at the same time, they don't have the same connection to the European like ideology and iconography that Dior would have or Louis Vuitton will have, and so on and so forth, right? And learning how to do that with, McQueen, Margiela, all of these places where we're like, oh, these are very productized and itemized, and you have the tabby and you have the McQueen shoe and all of these things, right? It creates this like kind of friction with, you know, people within the fashion audience. However, we're living through people figuring out how to actually promote, create, and strategize how to operate these companies now that the creative directors that our generation likes going through into the future. It's like, yeah, like we grew up with McQueen, well, at least I grew up with McQueen, but I'm pretty sure most of us like love McQueen for years, right? And then suddenly you have to have a new creative director, and you're kind of like, but there's going to be a time in like 60 years from now, possibly, where there's going to be a new kid that knows McQueen, but they didn't know McQueen like we knew McQueen. So they don't have the same connection that we have, and they don't have the friction mentally where it's like, oh, I knew McQueen for this, and you know, why are these products being made? They're not really going to have an understanding of the lineage of the productization of stuff, because what we had to grow through that, where they're just going through it. So yeah, like that's just like my thing. Like it's a new thought and understanding that I've gathered with this in terms of, oh, there's the European heritage, and then there's, okay, these are the new houses that we grew up with that we like, that need new creative directors.
Yeah, Michael, what are your thoughts on the show?
Gangy.
He loves it.
I think what I said afterwards, what I found the most interesting part of the show was the set design, like the parquet floors and everything. As a show, I went in with zero expectations, and I came out with less.
Oh my God.
You know, I did say the lead up to it that I'll be watching it with the same sort of anticipation that someone watches a car crash. You know, you just walk past and you can't not look at it. The show as a whole, I'll break it down. Basically, it was lazy. It was basically rehashes of his eponymous line. I don't get how much nonsense you can say that he went in the archives. You know, a feather across a pair of tits does not succumb to archival research. I think the ego on him was wild. Just from
we talked about that.
Yeah, the doppelganger models. I mean, there was, it's an autumn winter collection. There was no clothes.
Yeah, that's a really good point. The spring summer collection seemed like more of an autumn winter collection.
Yeah, but then even in the collection there wasn't much there. You had the same bias cut skirt, a variation on the feather nipple covers. You know, some of the tailoring, you know, the classic tailoring, you know, with the white shirting, you know, elongated sleeves.
Yeah, that's what Andy is known for. So
yeah, exactly. I was harking back to that sort of poetic sort of vision that she had. But beyond that, there was just nothing of interest. You know, there was no wow. There was no statement of intent. This is what I want to be bringing to the house going forward. You know, even though I wasn't a huge fan of Munir myself, he still encompassed, you know, the visions of the house that she had built, but added his own spin to it and sort of developed on the narrative that she'd created. Where old Ludovic decides to come in, smash everything with a sledgehammer, and just say, you know, this is what I'm bringing to it, and it
does seem a bit like because I found Munir's like Andy very intelligent. Like I remember I think it was like Fall Winter 20 was inspired by Nijinsky. And then the subsequent collection was inspired by like Belgian sailors. That was the one with like the sailing bags and stuff. And it just seemed like he was creating like new characters. Every collection was so interesting. And yeah, I don't know, like this, it just had no meaning. It was just product. It was clothes.
Did they get my good side? Because what Michael said is getting and then getting dispersed everywhere. I was just making sure I look good for, you know, when the thing gets dropped out. You get me? Wow, man.
What I was more curious about, I think, as well, is like, you know, people that went to the showroom afterwards. You know, I think the remainder of the collection that was going to be sold to retailers, the majority of it was probably still designed by the design team. Yeah. So I don't think he even had enough time to pull together a full sellable collection other than just the runway pieces. So I believe in the showroom, it was still the sort of classics that the team were developing over the past few years as well. You know, sort of classic had signatures, the waistcoat with the double straps, the denim.
And that's what people would actually buy. That's the thing.
Yeah. So I don't know if this show with Ludovic, maybe that they were hoping to maybe gain more accounts for the brand. I don't know if maybe they done the opposite and sort of turned accounts away. Do you know what I mean? Or buyers were like, I'm not too sure if I want to buy into this now because I don't know what it's going to be like in 2-3 seasons.
Yeah.
What is the vision for it?
In the economics of it all, like they do predict and project out to the future, don't they? Like, especially when now we're even in a recession, so it kind of does lend itself to say, yeah, like if we don't really know what they're going to be and how consistent they're going to be, then why should we buy into this right now? And it also says that maybe that they knew something that we didn't. But also I do want to say, in terms of how, you know, low key Anne was, and, you know, the level of luxury that Anne can actually bring, I do believe they missed a mark in terms of how Anne could have been part of this stealth wealth, quiet luxury, you know, type of boom that's going through. So like in economic downturns such as this, like Loewe and Bottega Veneta are usually popular. It happened 10 years ago. It's happening again right now, right? And Andy was really primed in a way in terms of how Claudio was streamlining everything to now say, yeah, get into, you know, the luxury bag and get into, you know, you're quite young. You probably was, you know, a kid when Angle was going through, like, yeah, give us the luxury. Oh, I love Anne type of thing. Like in terms of he doesn't really have that personal relationship, but he does have the relationship maybe in terms of how much he loves the house. But Ludovic ended up, like Michael said, doing his own brand within Andy code, and it kind of did rub me the wrong way in terms of, oh, I saw his brand in Andy, and he was also the face of Andy's opening collection. So like, I was kind of like a bit iffy about that, but really and truly, like, yeah, like he's not the only creative director that can do that. So I'm not really putting that against him.
Yeah,
however,
it's weird. Do you know what's weird about it?
There's a luxury segment he missed, I think.
Yeah, he most of the looks are basically just like rehashes of like old Andy stuff, but he did it in a way where he referenced things that looked exactly like what he would design. So he went through the archives and thought, okay, where has Andy done like a sheer dress the way I've done it? Okay, cool, I'm going to pick that. There's a look where models are covering their boobs. That's sexy. That's like showing a lot of skin. I'm going to lift that. So he like curated Andy's work into his own aesthetic, which doesn't show a lot of range as a designer.
Yeah, I agree. I think with that, his was very in how he adapted. I think he had about 5-6 repeated looks from his own Eponymous collection, which he had sort of previously. And I think going forward, you know, his idea of sexy is, you know, flesh bearing, you know, lots of skin, where Anne was a lot more demure. You know, her sexy was more covered, it was more elegant, it was more refined. You know, I think I was reading somewhere, I think Philippe Pourhachemi posted, you know, it's the difference between sort of, you know, cheap porn and erotica. You know, like Anne's
you know what,
erotica.
Damn.
And Ludovic was like cheap porn. I was like, I can see that there, because just the taste levels and ideals of what sexy is, you know, they're just sort of boundaries apart. And I don't know what audience they're trying to tap into, because of hiring Ludovic, yes, he's a bit of a socialite. He has his, you know, his following, his community, whatever you want to call it. And then you're sitting there and you're putting on celebrities to wear on the red carpet almost immediately. Particularly, you know, one of the Jenner sisters, etc., etc. And it's like, and the ethos of the brand would never ever have done that.
Correct.
So you're trying to jump into this whole celebrity hype cycle to boost your brand, where it's always been a silent luxury. Forget the term silent luxury, how it's used now.
Yeah.
You know, she really was the epitome of silent luxury at the time as well. You know, specific details, fabrics, cuts, where Ludovic is just screaming, but nothing to say.
It is very
Do you
much.
think?
Sorry, I go for it.
I'll just say that. Do you think it was like an attempt to like do Balmain 2.0, but they just ran out of money?
It could be, but then I don't think they've got that budget to push it onto those people that Balmain do, you know, and what they've managed to build up over the years. But it's expected from Balmain. It's always had that very Hollywood rock starry sort of flashy, even with Dacarin before.
Right. I mean, like he designed like stuff for like Michael Jackson for the tour. Like his concept of like publicity was very much Karl Lagerfeld, celebrity inspired.
I was just about to say any historical brand that had a couturier, it's going to be associated with like high society and red carpets and stuff because they dressed high society. So it makes sense in terms of the ethos of the brand, but Andy was not that at all.
But that's the same thing, like with, for example, like you don't think that Dries would have somebody at the red carpet, or like Margiela. Like Margiela has Kylie Jenner on the red carpet and a custom Margiela. I'm like, that is like that's not on brand.
Yeah.
For me. So the same thing goes with Anne. So maybe that was the reason also why they felt that it's like kind of like a new thing for them, and they don't want to be associated with that, which I understand, to be honest, because the Hunter Schafer moment went big. It was the first time.
Hunter Schafer and like Austin Butler, the Elvis, the guy who played Elvis, who won Best Actor, like they should have been shoved down our throats, but they didn't, I think, go as hard as they needed to if they were going to go that route.
Yeah. Well, I know the Hunter Schafer moment was very big. To be honest, I cannot remember the Austin Butler one. But Hunter was everywhere just because it was like the Oscars Vanity Fair after party, and you know, there was boobs involved, and I'm gay and it's boobs, so I'm like, yay. But it just like it made sense. It just makes sense. But I don't think that's like what you don't know Anne for that. That's the thing. So it's very not on brand. So maybe that was a part for them to be like, okay, maybe we need to revisit our decision.
Still, he used like the lowest common denominators to signify Anne in the collection that he created. You know, let's get a feather, let's get some tailoring, let's add some white shirting in. You know, it's like the most basic signifiers of the brand.
Yeah,
but to be honest, like Ludovic is very well connected. I am not shocked that he got this position. You know, out of all these like fashion people, he is extremely, I'm gonna say, up there with Jacques Mus. He's very, very well connected. You know, so you know, I think that he should stick to his own brand, because his own brand he does very well. You know, twinks love it. That's all that matters. And you know, and you know, I don't think that he has the range for other brands. I think, at least.
Yeah.
Does he really want to design for other brands in terms of that aren't
clearly not, because he didn't last half a year, Andy. So like clearly not.
170 days, guys. Can we just make sure that we say it's not even a year? Like, sis, come on.
It's bad though. It's bad. It even makes the company look bad. Like we said earlier, it doesn't look good on all sides.
It looks like
it just looks incompetent from all angles.
Correct.
I don't think they needed anyone. I think this spring/summer 23 collection that the team designed, I thought that was their strongest outing since the relaunch of the brand.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about before.
Yeah, we mentioned that. We put the show on the screen.
In that case, just like go with your team.
Yeah.
And obviously nobody knows it better, but then by the same token, you think that Gucci would do very well, but then like you see a Gucci show now without a creative director, and I'm like, why is there 1,700 ideas on one?
Yeah, that resort collection was that was a mess. That was a mess.
Jesus was like,
that was a big mess.
Free will for that. I think now.
There's really too many cooks in the kitchen, and that can be a massive problem.
That Gucci Resort collection was, let's identify every single customer that exists in fashion and let's design a look for them. All in one collection.
Honestly, and then I'm like, you know what? Like, I love that when teams do stuff that's great, like an Anne, that's great. But then I'm like, it is also an easy way for everything to go wrong.
Because you haven't got anyone there to edit and refine the things,
Like,
and create a cohesive sort of story to go with it.
that's the thing. Like, you do
just
not have like a clear vision. It's just like a lot of looks, but
Yeah.
It's just basically like a merchandiser's dream. Let's just throw everything on there.
correct. Very true.
So we know we're going to sell to the entry level client all the way up to our sort of top VIPs.
No, I agree. Or that, or get Olivier.
Yeah, I'm still saying get Olivier.
Honestly.
And I think Olivier would appreciate it in a way that Ludovic can't, because he's Belgian and like he probably grew up with the Antop sits. Like, yeah.
It's definitely more him.
Yeah, I think that Andy. Oh, no, I didn't want to cut anyone off, but I think that Andy has a level and like a status in fashion where it does need that romanticization of itself. So not someone that was in the brand, growing the brand, but now someone that was admiring the brand from afar and now adores it in terms of I want to show, you know, the greatness of Anne in all of the different angles and lights because they've studied it from afar, right? Like that's the same thing with Virgil and LV, for instance, and we see how that went. But if we were gonna pick a more discerning brand, it's almost like even the JPG moments that we've been seeing happening. It's like they admire it from afar. They know he's one of the greatest designers that were from our generation, right? Or should I say from the past generation? And then they get a chance to design a couture collection. So it's that level of thinking whereby you need the romanticization that will actually attain a luxury status towards the customer. And also when it comes to the people like us who speak about fashion on a daily basis.
I agree, but then I think, you know, you don't sound that's a big fan of the brand because then you don't want it to be sort of a pastiche of, you know, Anne's greatest hits. Well, I think so.
Yeah, that would be terrible.
I think if because his aesthetic was not similar to Anne's, but he still had that dark gothic romanticism about his work. I think his work's a bit more darker than Anne's. But I think it will fit, and what he's been producing himself for the past couple of seasons as well. The textures and the materials and the craftsmanship's incredible. You know,
I just love Olivier's work, man. I just think Olivier.
The question that I've been asking myself is really that if they're not going to go in a totally different direction, and if they are a lean type of company, like I've been saying right now, what should they be doing? And I really think that there should be, you know, well, at least on my part, when I think about the business of fashion, there should be some answers in terms of how people deliver on creative directors and adding creative directors to their roster, and how the creative directors choose an angle to participate and reference from the, you know, fashion designers that they are taking over, or fashion houses that they're taking over, right? And a nice way to understand that is that, you know, people can consider certain things luxury depending on the way that you design for them, right? So Margiela is going through this, Ricohen is going through this, Loewe is going through this right now. It's coming in a big way, whereby they have been these, you know, brands that don't have like big labels, but they are well made and, you know, refined in terms of the style that they've been created in, right? And, you know, the types of cuts that they use and things of that nature. So with Anne, that can also happen depending on, you know, the level of love and catering that, you know, the creative director has for it. And, you know, not to say that it would be pastiche or even pop art-esque, but to say, yeah, this is the direction that we're going in, and I find it luxurious because I had a level of understanding of what it would take to attain this position. Like I said, like he would appreciate the position more, and people that appreciate things more tend to take a little bit more care and time with it.
For sure. And obviously one of the criticisms was that apparently, it's not like it's alleged, but Ludovic was struggling to balance work at his own brand with Andy, and that was part of the rift between him and the Andy management team.
Not gonna say anything.
But what does he do for his own brand? He makes like 2 little mini shirts and time do you need? Come on.
That was my thought also. That's why I did not want to.
No. I think for Anne, the brand, I think right now is like the prime time to relaunch it and really push, because if we think, this sort of aesthetic of the dark, the avant-garde, blah, 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 which had a huge moment in 2009 to say 2013, should we say, there's a new audience there's a younger audience that are delving into that aesthetics. I think now's the ideal time for them to really push forward with it. So sort of the counteraction to the whole streetwear, Balenciaga, normcore thing, is a core group of young fashion enthusiasts that are really delving into these more, should we say, artisanal, avant-garde brands.
Yeah.
But Anne as well is a huge interest in Anne at the moment within a sort of younger consumer. But what Ludovic pumped out, everyone was just like,
Yeah.
What is it?
The more I think about it, the more I understand that Ludovic did miss the boat on, certain notes he could have hit in the collection that he ended up not hitting on.
Maybe he
Yeah,
had
thanks
plans.
for
Like,
hopping in, Michael.
why
by the way.
Yeah. But like, why would the CEO sign off on it, right? Like, they saw the collection obviously before it came down the runway. Like, they signed off on it because I think like the idea was growth. The idea
You
was
can't
to start launching
necessarily see a
flagships.
collection before it's made. Like, he has to make the collection and see how it's received first. Like, you can't. And the notes that he hits, like, people can be really good salesmen, but that doesn't mean that
I
they're
really want to know what like Belgians think
Bye,
about this
Michael.
collection.
I think
Yeah,
Michael-
Michael. Yeah, I said bye to Mike. He was like, "Peace out." But I really want to know what Belgians think about this collection, because like every Christmas time, I always like go to Belgium and then go like buy some stuff at the store, and like I talk to people just to get like their thoughts on like what the Belgian brands are doing. I can imagine they're probably not going to have great things to say.
Yeah.
I can imagine.
To me, like, I feel like the idea of like hiring him, of putting that show down the runway, of offering like that new angle for so strongly trying to angle for a different customer than I guess the Belgians, right? I think that's like an opportunity to try to find a buyer for a brand that's kind of been in a holding pattern, if that makes sense,
Yeah.
right? So it's like the guy who previously unloaded New Guards Group to Farfetch, like, he knows that like if you have an out, you can take it. And maybe this was an opportunity to try to produce like a similar situation where he just sets a brand up for growth. He can point to money men and say, this is now doubling its audience. You can now have a piece of this. And then that kind of makes his kind of investment in the brand a bit more secure than like total ownership, which I think is the situation right now. I don't know who his partners are and what they're expecting out of the brand now, but it does feel like new money needs to start coming in.
Okay.
A question. Does anybody know, and I'm a little bit switching the subject and then like you guys go back to this. I saw Scott tweet that there's only one catwalk show in London Fashion Week for menswear.
Really?
He said with
That's odd. I haven't looked at the schedule yet, so I'm not too sure about that. But why would there only be one catwalk show?
He says with many designers seeing there's no big names on schedule, they too have pulled out. The only runway now, Ravensbourne University.
Oh my.
Jesus.
That's crazy.
Designers and press were anticipating the likes of Burberry, Dunhill, who may now do something off schedule. With all of these not showing, international press will likely skip London and head to Pitti for Valentino and Fendi.
Yeah, that's a fair point. That's a fair point.
Yeah, that's concerning.
Wow. Jesus Christ.
Last season was so good though. How did we get here? Like,
it's Trump.
Last season was so good. It's Trump.
I 100% believe it's financing. I was on another show, I think earlier, and was discussing with the showrunners that I think that the core of like why people are pushing quiet luxury so much is because the people who are financing the companies now have to bankroll less people that they have to pay in terms of embroiderers, in terms of distressors, in terms of designers. Like, I think there's like a financial like structural reason why designs are getting simpler and more streamlined. Like, it's not about just trying to be quieter with luxury. Like, that's I think an easy like thing to point to in terms of narrative storytelling. I think there's like a financial like difficulty that's starting to happen with the downturn of the economy.
Wait, so you agree with me?
That should be that should be your tagline. I swear to God.
Wait, so you agree with me?
Do you agree with me?
So yeah, I think like, you know, there might be more virtual shows instead of like trips to Mexico City. If the brand's not doing that strong, like, you gotta tighten the belt.
I know, but like this is like a whole fashion week that I'm like, you know, it's menswear and it's London, and I'm like, come on, you can.
Although menswear has always been smaller than women's wear, though, so like,
true,
I'm sure that won't happen with women's.
Yeah, like, to be fair, London menswear on the calendar was literally 4 days, and the rest of them are 5. So it's interesting that happened that way.
Oh Jesus, Mother and Mary, Joseph, all 3 of you. Fashion is exhausting.
But I can't lie, this is very bad, and I've been talking about. Shout out to the British Fashion Council. We love you guys, and you know, everything like that.
Speak for yourself.
And all of that stuff. But there's someone that's gonna have to answer for this, and it's their problem, and they are supposed to be attracting the talent. And you know, for like 3 years now, I've been talking about how London has been scaring off talent, and then now nobody wants to show on the calendar. If that's true, that's a big deal. That's a bigger deal than, you know, it deserves its own live stream in general. Like, that's how big of news it is.
Of course, they don't want to show. They don't feel supported. I mean, like, it's I don't think that like British Fashion Council is doing something over the top to support these designers. Like, your Fashion Week is dying. I mean, like, you can face the truth right now, or like suffer the consequences, but like London Fashion Week, unfortunately, is not exciting. Nobody's getting, like, the person that keeps it afloat is like 3 designers. It's like, I'm excited what Delara
Simone.
Like,
I like Simone Rocha.
Simone Rocha, Richard Quinn. And then you have like Alawalia, who I'm excited always to see. You have like a couple of designers that are keeping this thing afloat, and then you have a lot of designers.
I want to say, before, you used to have Alawalia, Sam Ross, JW Anderson,
Kiko
Kamara,
Craig Green,
like, and one by one, and even Grace was one.
They all just go to Milan and Paris. So it's the pipeline. It's the London to Milan and Paris pipeline. It's not their fault, because all the showrooms are in Paris, and like the buyers go there. I get it.
It's upset me for the past 4 years that I've been.
I do not blame them at all. I would do the same thing.
Like, someone said Martine, but Martine showed in Pitti, didn't she?
In Pitti, in Florida.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Like, it's the London to Italy and France pipeline.
Yeah, and that's the Orient Express. That's the real Orient Express right there. That's upsetting, bro. Burberry is the one that holds it down, but obviously it's not like menswear is not the one that we got to Burberry.
Not holding it down anymore.
What, with purple plaid sweaters and trench coats?
That's the quiet luxury.
There's nothing quiet about
shocking electric blue. Yeah.
There's nothing.
Wait, electric blue?
Yeah.
That's not that
or color. International blue, Klein blue, however you want to like call it.
That's not that color. Wait, give me a second. Let me go.
I
can be wrong. I usually am not, but let's check.
There is no quiet luxury when the horse is on a back of your shirt, like Burberry horse. There's nothing quiet
Those
about
those trainers, or should I say, the combination of colors lends itself for me to believe.
that. I wish I
Yeah,
was happy.
the quiet luxury thing, I'm just so exhausted about it. And I say that and I'm literally gonna make a video about it, lol. But
About what?
just quiet luxury
It's
and
not,
how like
yeah,
annoying it is. Because there are parameters within quiet luxury, because I've noticed that the trend of quiet luxury, like people that say it as a trend, they wear brands that are still identifiable though. So it's like you're not wearing it because you don't want to wear brands. You're wearing it because it's a trend to like wear like
True.
the row if you're a rich kid, or like
I'm
very
a beauty.
specific brands. Sorry?
And the role is not luxury first and foremost, but I'm gonna be real.
The row.
Yeah, the role.
The
I
row
don't
is
find it.
luxury.
I don't find it luxury.
The
You
row
find
is
the role
It's
luxury? All right,
luxury.
we can argue about that
It's
another day.
luxury.
Don't worry about it. It's fine. It's fine. Like that's not really my point. But
Damn, it's just shit
my
talk.
point being is that in the last economic downturn, Loewe and Bottega were at the top of the roster in terms of what quiet luxury was, and you know the balance sheets reflect that, right? Now we're getting, because we're in like such a social media dynamic age, but like Loewe still, like if you've been noticing how many looks Bottega's getting on the clientele, it's out there. Like there's people that don't know about those L's that like in the quad, but I know like whenever I see those L's, I know that it's Loewe, right? But at the same time, it's not quiet. But in an economic downturn, that's
Yeah,
when
I
it
was
thrives.
going to ask you, like, with Bottega, how quiet is it? Because
It's not
the
quiet anymore.
accessible, that's what I was about to say,
I
the
was getting
accessible
there.
quiet luxury, then Trecciato is not quiet luxury
I
because
was
it's so
literally about to get there.
identifiable. It's like a logo. And
It's
then the stuff that's inaccessible, like the leather skirt that costs
yeah,
$20,000, no one's buying that unless you're like a
yeah.
billionaire or like multimillionaire. So
Bottega is not showing
that's,
itself as
yeah.
quiet anymore. Loewe still is, even though it's got that loud quad L, right? But Bottega's, you know, taking, but they just dropped the resort collection. It's a resort, right? Not cruise, it's resort. With the leather jeans. Yeah. And I'm quite interested to see what that does and like who you see on, because obviously like Daniel Lee loved putting these clothes on celebrities, right? He loved it, and I'm not
That's
sure.
some Kendall Jenner type energy, like where
Yeah.
she's just, people are just gonna think she's wearing mum jeans, but actually like $5,000 Bottega leather jeans.
Yeah, and
Like,
and I want to see if, you know, Matthew Blaze either does the same thing. He actually hasn't. Like I've not really seen him do. Like I know people that buy Bottega now. Like I see the, you know, the buying habits of certain like high net worth individuals, but to gift it, yeah, of course, like Hanan,
me.
you know, like yourself, you know, but
I ain't part of that.
now I want to
Yeah.
see
I
like,
wish.
you know,
I
what
definitely
Matthew Blaze does, because Bottega should be making a lot more money right now based upon like historical events, but yeah, we'll see though. Like
I
we'll
don't
see.
think, to be honest, I don't think a Bottega is a quiet luxury. For me, quiet luxury
It's
is
not quite luxury anymore. That's interesting because 10 years ago it was.
That's what I was saying. Then Trecciato is basically a logo, and that's what people can buy. Bottega is so expensive, way more expensive than all the other brands that people talk about quite luxury.
like, for
Like
example, quiet-
Bottega is pricey.
it is. It really is. But like, for example, like for me, like I'm very like when it comes to that, it's very much like Zegna, Laura Piana.
Laura
Yeah,
Piana.
Zegna definitely.
I was
Brunello,
about to say the other brand that is replacing Bottega in that is Laura Piana. Like that is what all the influencers are flocking to. Zegna is more like the off-piece kind of, I like tailoring type of influencer, but Laura Piana is going
They're
up
both great
right now. They're phenomenal brands. Well, not brands, houses, like companies. But yeah,
It's cashmere more, I think, than the brands themselves, because like these like quiet luxury brands like Loro Piana, like the prices are sky high for a reason. So people like look for alternatives. That pushes like more purchasing of cheaper cashmere,
Mhm.
of like alpaca, which is like exotic material, and these like big jackets and volumes that like I think are kind of synonymous with the
Yeah.
old money look. So I don't
Yeah.
even think it's brands necessarily as much as
Laura
material.
Succession
Yeah,
piano.
I literally just saw that. Yeah, fam. Oh, fam. Like,
That's actually what they wear though.
I will be like, I remember seeing Rick Owens in Succession, and I've seen Margiela. Like, I remember the scene, I believe it was in the second episode. He sat down and I saw the two, like you know what I'm saying, of the
Yeah,
Margiela.
the
And I was
threads.
like, that's Margiela. And I was like, I
Is
look,
that
give
Yeah,
up.
show?
low key, people have been using Margiela to do quite luxury because Margiela makes some like
Yeah.
commercial ass, plain ass sweaters, and then it just has
Yep.
the two things at the back, and so many
Yep.
people buy it for like $300.
I was actually out recently, and I saw a guy that let's just say that the place I was in, people don't necessarily do quite luxury, and this guy had on a Margiela jumper, and I was like, that's interesting. And I thought it was more interesting that it wasn't spoken about. Obviously, I'm not gonna say, oh yeah, you got Margiela on, because I'm not giving anybody that rating, to be fair. But
So you're a hater, basically.
I'm a true hater, yes, and shit talker. But no, for like, but yeah, what I say that to say that like people wear Margiela as like the status symbol, like they did back in the day, but like it's more of a luxury status symbol now than anything else, than like a if you know you know type, because I think everybody knows at this point.
It's different though because Margiela then wasn't so commercial in the fact that like Margiela makes so many things now that are like, when I say plain, I mean plain. Like there's nothing distinctive about a plain jumper and just the threads at the back. Like you wouldn't be able to differentiate it from any other brand apart from the threads on the back. Like Margiela wasn't that commercial before. Like they make some super commercial pieces these days.
Yeah.
Well, I think
literally.
that's actually been a part of the brand for a while because as part of their numbering system, they have a different number for the men's line, for instance, and their men's wardrobe line. So like the garderobe, sort of like super plain, nothing but except for like the tag at the back. That's been a thing for a while. I think the first time I saw that was in like a 2017 documentary about like Ryuichi Sakamoto, like the musician, RIP to a real one. But he was wearing like a bunch of Margiela shit in that documentary, and it was everywhere in the documentary because like it's whenever they show the back of any of his jackets or jumpers or whatever, it would have those stitches. And I think that's just part of like a lifestyle for some people, like because yeah, like ever since it was still Maison Martin Margiela instead of just Martin Margiela, that's just been a thing.
Yeah, it has, but it's not like it's different. Like, okay, do you shop on like Ukes, for example? Like the when you let me see if I can go on Ukes and show you what like is on Margiela because it
Factory
wasn't
outlet
like
Margiela. Yeah, there is factory outlet Margiela. That's not part of the wardrobe line.
yeah,
Too.
exactly. That's what I'm talking about, like that factory outlet shit. Like it looks like fucking like you went to TK Maxx and like you just found loads of stuff and it just happened to have like the threads at the back type of vibe.
Yeah, I mean it's the Only the Brave special.
This is true though. Someone said Margiela is easy to fake. That is true.
Yeah.
Just get any piece and put 4 seams at the back and no one will question.
God, did you see that recent collaboration they did with Gentle Monster, the sunglasses company? It's just like a regular
think I've
pair of
seen
their
that.
like normal silhouettes with just like the stitching on like the side of
I
the
saw-
sunglasses.
I saw the ad for that. It was with like a K-pop star, right?
Yeah, it's a
That-
Korean
I
brand.
didn't see it.
That
I
commercial
didn't
was
see it.
very good, I have to say. Honest to God, it was like a minute of like really cool effects. So you know what? I'll give him that. Whoever did that, I was like, power to you. I'm not worried.
Yeah, like with these particular, when you want to start getting into the luxury status, you have to start permeating your iconography. So those 4 stitches are literally part of the Margiela iconography, and the more that you push that out into the zeitgeist, you're able to now say, like, be synonymous with those labelings, right? Like, obviously I got an essay about this, but the point being is that only brands that want to do that, and like it's almost as if see, people say a lot of stuff about Matthew Williams, but he came from the class and the school of Virgil Abloh / Kanye West, right? I think it's more of a Virgil Abloh school of thought, but Matthew Williams got the Audemars Piguet, and I was like so confused. I can't lie to you, I was so confused as to why he got an AP, but he had iconography on that. Like, literally, it's just an AP. Like, it's nothing else. But when you have the symbolism there, you're able to attach yourself to what could be considered luxury, and then you elevate yourself. And you know, he's doing at Givenchy what he can do now, and he also doubled down of that in when he was in Dior prior, right? So those things have to work.
Anything in Givenchy?
Apart from selling, I don't know.
Is he selling?
I don't think so.
But he puts his logo on everything, right? That's what he does.
No.
A talent, a man of vision. I can with it.
Someone's mentioning Hermes, by the way, and as like quiet luxury. I don't consider Hermes because people don't wear the clothes. People just have the bags, and the bags aren't quiet in any way. Everyone can identify a Birkin from a mile away.
Yeah, and the belts still have H on them. But what I was gonna say is, do you think like the dove feather thing was an attempt at like a monogram iconography moment?
The dove feather for
Ludovic's and
yeah, that's you see the thing that was holding the feather up. That was what was holding up his career.
You know what? It has the potential to go. It has. I think it has the potential to go viral. Same way that the diesel belt went viral. If they put it in production, I think the kids on TikTok are gonna be like, "Oh my god!" Have you seen, you know, type of a thing.
Have you seen the girls wear the diesel belt? Though.
No,
look.
No, it's not about like the look. It's about the fact how
everyone's wearing it, and
everyone's wearing it, and there is no point in wearing it because it's not like there's nothing, you cannot use it for anything.
But no, I don't believe that it was because, or else it would be in production, or should I say, it would have been in production, and people would have ordered it. If anything, like it depends. Like when
like
you
we
go
didn't
direct,
see a buyer's room, right? Like we don't know if there were purses with the feather and shoes with the feather and like jumpers with a bunch of feathers. Like we don't know what could have happened there.
That's a good recommendation, by the way. Miguel Adrova, very very good recommendation.
Yes, isn't he?
Although, so it's funny because Miguel Adrova's aesthetic to me is more like Sebastian Munier leading than Andy herself, but it's still like a fit because that's what people now associate with like Andy. Do you guys think we'll get back to real designers in the future, or will everything just be about the name?
Real designers? You go.
Yeah, I don't know what you mean by real designers, but I think everything's going to be about the name. I think Bernard Arnault is like no one's stopping the direction of fashion that he wants to move in. And I think it's just going to be about names, to be honest.
There are real designers out right now, though. Like Jacques Mus is like one of the biggest and best independent designers that we have today.
Jacques Mus is the first person that you thought of when you said real designers.
Not Rick Owens.
Not Rick Owens. No, I'm so sorry.
Dammy, okay, this is the beginning stage of Dammy wanting to start a war.
No, what I'm saying is like, listen, you can't you can't clear $500 million in a year and me not understand that independently, and me not know.
Yeah, so it just means people love.
It just proves the power.
No, it doesn't just mean anything. No, oh my god, I feel like we are like kind of lowering the bar here. That's a mad thing to do independently.
Yes, I agree.
It is, but
shows the power
That's
of the
a
it
mad-
factor.
yeah.
Tell me this: where is he going to be now after the Chiquito?
It's only time will tell. I can't predict that type of
He
future.
cannot keep the same
However,
amount of
Yeah.
because he doesn't have the thing that everybody wants.
my
And the girls
point
don't
is,
wear the ready to wear like that. They all just wear the bags.
there are so many designers out there, Jack Moose, notwithstanding, that are, thriving in their, houses, in it. So, like,
This is the beginning stages of Dammy wanting to start a war.
no, like,
It
we
depends
have
what the person meant by real designer. If they meant skill,
have-
then there's 100 designers that have more skill than
Martin
Jack Moose.
Rose,
But like,
we have Samuel Ross, we have Richard Quinn, we have Laquan Smith, like every fashion week. Like, I'm
okay, interesting. I'm not talking about
Oh,
real designers existing. I mean, brands will choose people
choose
like
people like
Matthew
Williams.
Williams, Pharrell, etc. over designers that actually know
Oh,
design. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
That's just
we're
Bernardo,
too far
though.
gone
That's
with
one
that.
guy.
Yeah, that is not going to change because of the
That's-
scale
yeah,
of the brands.
yeah,
So if you think of like the way
yeah.
fashion has progressed, the reason why you can hire Marc Jacobs at Louis Vuitton is because he had nothing to lose because they didn't make any money with clothes anyway. So, but now it's too late. They make so much money that to top that and to grow, you need a big name now. So that's not really going to change. If anything, it's going to get worse.
I know.
I think that it's more of a shift between like fashion is not looking for designers right now, it's looking for creative directors. So you have people that like have a good eye for what looks good. For example, like Daniel Roseberry and Schiaparelli does not know how to sew, but he knows how to sketch and he knows what's going to look good. So I think that
And these companies are huge. They have massive ateliers, so they have people that can design. Like, what people don't understand also is that, let's say Pharrell now is the creative director or artistic director of menswear at LV. There will be a head designer under him who's the trained designer, who will then work closely with him to make his ideas a reality. So there's people at every level that are the true designers that make these people look good.
So you agree with me?
Hold on, I'm getting a breaking news. Breaking news. Blackpink has been announced. The entirety of Blackpink has been announced to become the new creative directors of Chanel.
Oh wow!
I am down for that.
What has not been said yet as to how they will be splitting the actual duties of design work, but
one in shoes, one in perfume, one in leather goods, one in ready to wear.
100% down for that. It would definitely be better than it is now.
Trumpet Chanel, my word.
You know what? Yeah, I've been seeing the Chanel iconography a lot more.
Oh, what did Jennifer say? I also think there's an issue is fashion is only entertainment now, or is real design still meaningful in a world addicted to entertainment?
You know what? It's a great question. It's a great question, but I do think that fashion is like turning into entertainment a lot more than ever before.
I don't think the average consumer cares about design, really. It's about the name. Average consumer.
Look at the Met. The Met is not about like fashion. It's about like the moment, who's gonna pull up and do what. So it's not about like what dress really it is. It is like who's there.
Okay, I have a thought. I had to think real long and hard about what Jennifer said. When I see designers, right, I know it's like, because I follow designers like a lot, and I like to look back and see how, they got their start and was able to like gain their momentum to become who they are today, right? So I could say Sam Ross, for instance, some can say Ruigi. Who else can we use that's not on the spectrum of Sam Ross and Ruigi?
Martin Rose.
maybe Jack Moose. Not Martin was still kind of like in the Jack Moose realm, but like
London thing,
yeah, like Simone Russia, right? So with all of them, one thread that I see in their careers, right, is that they were accepted by a community that cared about their designs first, in terms of industry wise and people who are actually buyers, right? And then they were able to grow en masse because, you know, when you're in the growth stage of your company, you're able to, you know, do those things. So like Simone Russia has DSM. Obviously, Ruigi had the California base. Sam Ross had the, you know, underground scene that was really into like avant-garde wares and all of these other things. And obviously, Sam Ross started with a hat and turned into an empire and all of these other things. Well, to be fair, that's just narrative. But in general, there is this thing where real designers are catered to with their original buyers or their pioneering buyers, and then it grows into, you know, what would be the catering to the mass when, you know, you've grown past all of the people, or you've got, you know, the whole market that you could possibly get, which is about 1 million to 3 million grossing, right? And then you're able to grow into that 10 million scale, 50 million scale, and that takes the people that just know you as a name. And it takes those collaborations and being in DSM and, you know, doing all of these other things that are like almost like what you sometimes think, why is he doing that? And all of these things. But these kind of things allow your name to be attached with places and names that you would like to see things in. Like being in the Rob Report, for instance, is important to some people. Being in Time Magazine and all of these other things. And the question is, how do I get into Time Magazine, and what should I launch and what product should I put out when I've got the Time Magazine article out? And all of these things are in preparation and strategy for you to get a bigger audience. Someone keeps saying high fashion streetwear. Someone said
I
luxury.
had this question asked by people. I want you guys to say, do you guys think a designer should do basic stuff to sell, like CDG Play or Tom Brown with his basic full bar stuff? I think if you want a sustainable business, you have to. I think every designer has certain products, like even Simone Russia, that is considered like not that commercial, but she has like pearl accessories, like headbands and like bracelets that all the girls in London wear. I think every brand has like a product base that's like really commercial, whether it's like bags, like in the case of Jacques Mousse, or like Ann Demeulemeester, their thing is footwear that sells really well. Like everyone wants the backlacing boots. So I think every brand needs some sort of like product that can really bring in the money, and then they can have more experimental things. But if it's all experimental, it won't work long term.
True.
Yeah, it's what Dammy was saying. I agree. I agree with what he was saying. With you know, once you're at the $1 million mark, you're basically it in terms of like growth. If you want to grow bigger and hit that 10 million, you have to have on ramps for people who only know you from having had a look at the Met Gala or having put a look on, it's celebrity. You have to have some entry point into the brand. So that can be something like a perfume, or like a wallet, or a boot, or a pair of sweatpants with a logo of some kind. Because these are things that people need to buy anyway, and if they can feel a little something by buying into the excitement of you as like a upcoming designer, like why not give them something to like enjoy?
I think it's
of course
plan, yeah.
Yeah, of course, it's like very uninnovative when you do that, and that does start diluting your brand, right? As you're reaching out, which is like a joke that I like to say. Like the only real like innovation you can have is not in design, but in vertical integration. Like how much can like your brand control your supply chain, how sustainable and closed loop you can be with your work. That I think is probably the only sustainable way of kind of driving your brand towards something that's not just infinite
100%.
growth and that sort of production.
Oh, someone's asking about Loire. Where do you see Loire going in the future in terms of growth and their pioneer customers along the way? Oof. I don't know. Like for people that don't know about Loire, Loire is a brand by Raul Lopez, and I think he was the co-founder of Hood Bayer with Shane Oliver, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. I don't know because the people that wear Loire are very like queer culture, New York, and like queer culture in New York. I know a lot of black people from New York that wear Loire, but those are mainly the people I see wearing it. So
wasn't he the contestant for the LVMH prize not so long ago?
Yeah,
he's a finalist. He's a finalist.
Yeah.
I like his stuff.
It's kind of like the Harlem
I love
version
it.
of Jack
I love it.
And very smart to immediately go with a bag to push upon everybody, because he does have I don't know the name of the bag, but he has a bag that he's pushing left and right, which is great. And I think, to be honest, one of the most expected shows when it comes to New York is Loire show, because he's
100%.
experimenting and it's not giving New York that much. It's giving more avant-garde. It's giving more statement pieces, which is very good.
Why do you think it's only because I genuinely only see people from New York wearing it? I don't see it much in other, like outside of New York.
Well, I'm curious, like, I think like if you're in Paris, if you're going to pick between like Loire or Rick Owens, I think that you're going to go with Rick Owens first. But I think that like Loire still has a lot of potential right now to grow into something bigger. He just has to be smart. And by the way, if anybody wants to remember his name is Raoul, which is the opposite of Loire. That's why it's called Loire. That's how I always remember it. Honestly, they're like, "What's the name of the guy from Loire?" And the other day, I was like,
Loire, just backwards.
Do we have some time for the Walmart prize, or are we saving that?
I do not even check that one out, to be honest.
Oh, we can talk about that quickly.
Yeah. Like Lagos Space Program.
Lagos Space Program one,
Yeah, no, that's mad still. That's mad. Did you expect it, first and foremost?
I didn't, to be fair. Because
who won it?
Lagos Space Program.
Lagos Space Program.
Okay.
You know the person Adeji who I interviewed for our magazine?
Yeah. It's crazy.
But I don't know. I just assumed that they wouldn't understand what Adeji was trying to do.
On a real, I didn't expect it either.
Yeah, so I was quite surprised that they get it, because if they understood, it was inevitable that he would win, because the idea behind the post Adira thing is so deep, it's so rich. It's just down to if they understand.
And like the sustainability practice that he was actually using as well, like
everything about it is sustainable.
Like the from top to bottom, it's just like.
Before the Walmart prize, which is why I was saying he should have won. Like, if they understood what he does, that's what I was worried about. Though they wouldn't understand it.
Bro. That was, but no, like just seeing that, I was like, oh wow, like he gets to really, because, like, does he work out of London or Milan? Because I know I think
he works out of Nigeria.
Yeah, and I was thinking like that prize money in Nigeria, the way it's stretching,
it's gonna go far.
That's what.
More importantly, though, is the mentorship you get from the Walmart prize. That is going to be, because they have the contacts to build the infrastructure, which will bring in more money than whatever the prize could give you.
Literally, his infrastructure was already like steadily improving before the Walmart prize. So imagine now what he's able to accomplish with the mentorship and with the money, because that money is gonna go far, fam. It
will.
I was excited when I saw that. I was shocked. The level of shocked I was. I'm not even trying to overstate it or understate it. It was like, wow, like I just felt this immense, like, oh my lord, like, yo. because
There
I knew
tends
he
to
worked out
be,
of Nigeria, but I didn't know whether he would have a studio today in London
yeah.
like Tokyo does. But Tokyo works out of Niger Swell, innit? And he like flies back
Well,
and forth.
Tokyo works out of Turkey, Nigeria, and London,
Yeah.
depending on what
So
he's doing.
So like I was just like, wow, wait, because I know a big part of the infrastructure is in Nigeria as well. So if he like, you know what I'm saying? I was just thinking about all the ways that you can just grow your company from there and like, you know, just be efficient, really and truly. That's mad. Oh man.
Yeah, and I think it's just more interesting that so my interest in fashion has been a lot looking at like different regions, because it tends to be the case now that a lot of designers, especially like at CSM, they have good designs, but their inspiration points are starting to get a bit dry because it's always the same stuff. And the teachers need to stop being so infatuated by certain time periods and like get out their ass and actually think about new shit.
Yeah.
Because like they force every designer down a path of like art history, pre-Raphaelites, brutalism type vibe. And then the students start to talk that way, and it's like you all sound the same. Like I remember I was working with a designer, and I literally told him that I was like, "You're starting to sound like every designer I interview. You don't want to do that. Like find your own identity." Because a lot of designers do it, and I get bored. They start talking, and they're like, "Yeah, so there's a really nice bohemian art movement that I like. It's called Weidster Republic in Germany," and just what they were doing, and I'm already bored. I'm just like, it's like I've been told this by 10 other designers. Like,
I'm
I
just
can't.
waiting for someone to reference Cartoon Network, really and truly. I want someone to do some mad stuff with Ed and Eddie, some futurist Ed and Eddie reference that, you know.
Tokyo James. So Tokyo James is not in my Turkey film. So my Turkey film was just going to be like Turkish designers and like journalists and like stuff. Because I was because obviously the earthquake happened when I filmed it, and like all sorts of other things like political unrest and stuff. Oh wow, wait, Al, are you in Turkey?
Yeah, I just happen to be in Istanbul.
No wonder, because I heard. Are you close to the Blue Mosque?
Kinda, yeah. You may have heard
that's
even
why.
prayer going.
Because when I was in Istanbul, it sounded exactly like the prayer, and I was like, "Are you in Istanbul? Like, what's going on?" I heard like the prayer in the background. I was like, "What?" That used to wake me up every morning.
The pre-dawn one, yeah.
But yeah, it's
not the prayer that
the...
wakes me up. It's the cats who are responding to the prayer.
Oh yeah, the cats.
You got some of them that are Muslims.
There's a lot of street cats in Istanbul. Yeah,
really,
there's a lot of street cats in Istanbul. Yeah,
the cats are like backup.
It's so weird, and like people love cats in Istanbul. Like you'll just see a random cat come close to it, and people start feeding it and stuff. Then it eats and then goes along with its day.
Not a cat person. That would not be me.
Yeah. I look at cats. I'll be like, I'm walking here. I'm walking here.
Can you? Cat and I'm like, why are you not a dog?
Oh, how are you finding Istanbul?
It's fun. It's fun. It's a significantly more European than I was anticipated. It's mostly like a European city with Miami characteristics, if that makes sense.
Yeah, water everywhere from every angle.
Yeah, that's an interesting way to describe it. I wonder what you mean.
No, I love Istanbul. I want to go back. Like, the only issue was that because I was there to film the project, I couldn't really experience it the way I would have if I just went without having to like film a documentary. So I definitely need another trip down there.
I've never been to Istanbul. One of my friends told me, he's like, you have to come. I'll show you around. And I'm like, I don't know how smart that is. But it seems like a very nice place, honestly.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like obviously, there's everyone's scared of like a potential earthquake risk and stuff like that. But apart from that, yeah.
Are the new buildings earthquake proof or tsunami proof?
Oh, they absolutely are. There was the art museum I just went to today. had like a whole exhibit like touting how earthquake proof it was, and then patenting new inventions in terms of how the steel beams are put together, so they use less concrete, so it's even more earthquake proof. It's very straightforward over here.
No, that's cool. No, man, I need to hit Istanbul and Budapest. Yo,
Jennifer is cracking up.
no, that
No,
Cartoon Network
my
joke-
favorite thing. My favorite thing will be when somebody like says, "Oh, this collection it's entirely inspired by SpongeBob and my memories
Yes.
of growing up watching Ed, Ed and Eddie." But like the actual clothes will like look nothing like it. It'll be
At
like
all.
a 17th century like
Abstract.
Italian nobleman throwback.
You
shit.
know, vampiric SpongeBob collaboration of romanticism.
But the designer talks the shit. That he knows the language that'll communicate
Yes.
his vision to the people.
When
Yeah.
Patrick was under a rock, that symbolized the hidden. Like, I don't know if I was about to go in, but I said no, let me not do that. But the
You need to ask the
philosophy
people that
behind
write show notes
underneath
to
a
write a
rock.
narrative. They can do it.
Yeah.
Ed and Eddie for sure. What?
I swear to God, I feel like everybody uses the same template for the show notes. It
Someone
talks about
will-
a woman's strength, and I'm like,
A woman's strength, the
Someone
touch
will
of a
make
man.
deal breaker
they're
band.
like the sensuality of a woman, and I'm like, wow.
I could 1,000.
So I have not read this anywhere else before, have
I'm
I?
like, this is so creative, inventive.
I could 1,000.
I love Rick Owen's show notes. He
Reference.
writes really good show notes every season.
I don't really. He's show notes. Well, actually, I only really read Rick Owen show notes. I don't really read anybody else's.
Hands down, Virgil had the best one because when you read Virgil's, you knew everything about Louis Vuitton, about the collection, and also you got the whole
Even the fabrics.
You got the whole history of the Byzantine Empire in one show. I'm like, love that.
The Byzantine Empire. Okay,
He'll be like, look, one was a 50% cashmere, 40% wool, 10% cotton blend. And I'm like, thank you, Virgil. Like,
you know,
I want these details.
It's a lot of information, but that's what I want. Like, I swear.
But yeah, man. Someone needs to reference. Well, I could reference Cartoon Network and anime, and I feel like it would be amazing.
A designer who's adjacent to that, Robert One was trending on it because he got some looks onto the Met Gala. But Robert One has a lot of very current pop culture references. I remember seeing on his Instagram being like, "Oh, this one dress, it's a very like sophisticated look, totally inspired by Batman versus Superman: Dawn of Justice Ultimate Edition." No joke. And then like he had the frames from the movie to prove it, and it was a very I think cool looking piece.
Yeah,
it's the one with like the exploding pearls from like the scene where like
that's
Batman's
interesting.
He's having his couture was very good, honestly. His couture was so good, and honestly, like one of the newer designers that I can see going a long way.
Yeah,
I mean, his stuff like goes viral. Like it captures the imagination because it has such a strong cinematic narrative to it, and that drama is like now something that's like a huge part of his brand.
Had that. No, have you seen that look that is supposed to mimic rain?
No, I don't think I've seen that one.
Seen that.
You haven't seen that? Oh, so basically, he has this look. Which is just like a black dress, very, very kind of like a silhouette is actually pretty cool, and it has a rain, and it's embellished by crystals, which are supposed to mimic rain, and it literally.
Oh yeah, I just found it.
Yeah, show it on the screen. It looks amazing.
Yeah, I'm gonna share
the
it
whole
now.
couture collection was inspired by accidents that happen. Yeah, that is so cool.
That's
and
wild.
I think I cannot remember who wore it to Buckingham Palace or something like that. I think that she got knighted or something like that when she was wearing this look.
Oh wow.
Without the umbrella though.
Was it the black lady? No, it wasn't. She wore from.
And I'll let you know.
Yeah, like I wonder when people will start referencing anime in an abstract way, because it's well, to be fair, I wonder what there's like new references like people would do.
There
'Cause
are some.
I
There are some designers though that are like. I know I just bashed CSM students. So there was one guy who Alexander.
look at the
He was
balance.
inspired by. Oh, I'm gonna make a cycling jersey that's inspired by if like the Tories made a jersey, like how it would look, who would be the sponsors and all that stuff. And that was so interesting. It was hilarious as well. I was like, finally, like someone's actually thinking outside the box, not just like
Yeah.
telling me, oh yeah, I'm inspired by brutalism. Like,
Oh
God.
man, I hate brutalism. No, wait, I shouldn't have said that.
I love brutalism. It's just that if you're a young designer, you can't, like, so many designers have already done that like it's just so uninspired and unoriginal.
I don't know. I'm a true modernist, so like when I say I hate brutalism, it's not that I dislike it or I dislike any of the brutalists. Is that I have to reject what came before me and try to be inspired by the things that I lived through. So like I don't really have many old references that are the core of my ideas, I should say.
It's not about that. I think it's just incredibly easy as a young designer to have a bit more energy if you're actually opening your eyes and making something about the world around you, right? Like that's the Martine Rose formula. Is that like it's actually about the world around them, and there's like I think immediacy to that observation that like I think is very easy to respond to because you don't feel like you're recycling the same things or like being esoteric. It's really easy to connect to.
Yeah, but the reason why brutalism is quite easy to reference in the UK, just to shoot some of the people some bail, is that if you've lived in a council estate or
you
some
walk
terrace
past the
houses,
Barbican,
you literally see like the brutalist architecture. Like when you go back in time into the reason why these apartment complexes are like that, you're gonna see Le Corbusier, and it's like one of those thoughts that you're like, okay, this is starting to happen, and now there's these influences that are going to this one brutalist architecture apartment complex that was dubbed the most ugliest complex like in the world or whatever, and the architect was fired from the actual thing because it was that ugly, and then now people are going to it. Wait, give me a second, I'll actually share it with you guys.
He's about to pull up a picture of Shrek.
Okay, wait,
that's the next lane is Shrek revivalism.
Shrek, oh my
that's
God,
what the Zoomers want.
I'm done.
So I'm down for that. What else has happened in fashion recently? I think it was just people just leaving houses. I guess the resort shows, but the resort shows, a lot of them weren't anything to read about. I mean, we talked about Gucci, which was hilarious.
Louis Vuitton had a resort show. Dior had
there we go.
Gucci Soul show. Basically, a lot of air miles being.
McQueen, I think I saw McQueen's.
McQueen was really good.
Let me just not send you guys.
Diesel had a good resort show. Not show, just a collection.
Okay, I'm gonna have to reference the Sun. Please don't flog me. But yeah, if anyone knows anything about being in the UK and the Sun magazine. But yeah, I think I'll try and send this to you somehow. Oh wait, this how I can send it actually. But yeah, actually it's in the chat. I put it in the chat. But yeah, literally like it's so easy to reference brutalism in the UK. But I actually send a link for the apartment complex because it's one of those iconic places. If you watched the Kingsman, you know where the guy was doing parkour on those apartments. That was shot there. That was shot in this apartment complex. Like, and it's ugly, but the lines are so consistent and consecutive, and like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And there's a place that has modular buildings or modular housing and stuff like that in terms of the way that it's like built like Tetris blocks and everything like that. And obviously it's quite easy if you live in like the way that this place that we live in the UK is built. It's quite easy to reference brutalism based upon our architecture. But at the same time, you did grow up watching some cartoons. Like, where are the cartoon references?
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah,
you know,
that's fair enough.
like I grew up like, you know, with aspirations of other things. But I will say though, I am referencing the brick that I grew up with. Like, that was when I did my architecture work. I was referencing the brick from there. And now in the art that I'm doing, I'm also referencing the brick. So it's kind of one of those like consistent things.
So you agree with me?
Yeah, I agree with you. I do agree with you. So you agree with me?
So stupid.
So we're in agreement.
Basically,
That is becoming like a tagline.
that's literally your tagline. So you agree with me?
Only for today. Only for today. That's what you call compelling content, ladies and gentlemen. I produced you to be producible for me. That's what it is. Production.
Interesting. So, Al, are you just like chilling in Istanbul? Or, like, did you have something to go to there?
No, I'm just kicking it. At
Nice.
some point, I want to try and see if I can't visit one of those fake factories that like make fake Jordans. But
Oh, wow.
I've not been having much success in finding one of those. You know, just tourism things.
Yeah.
Hey. What else is going on in fashion? Cannes Film Festival, aka there's
Oh
no.
yeah.
It is difficult to pick out a beautiful dress for the red carpet. That's the struggle of 2023. Besides that,
Bye, Dammy. By the way.
what? Oh, damn, he
No, I was
left.
saying bye to Dammy. Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah, Cannes Film Festival. Yeah.
I'm like, how
I don't
difficult?
know. The red carpet, is it me or are red carpets gradually getting worse and worse in terms of like clothing selections?
Yeah, I swear to God, I'm like, there's so many pretty dresses out there, and like, you can pull whatever you want, but no.
Like you're
Well, how
literally
much is it? Is
collaborating
you
with a
don't have
brand.
style? Yeah. I was gonna say the exact thing. Like, how much is it like stylists like getting less powerful, and how much is it like artists directly signing with the labels? Right? Like now
Yeah,
you have to be a Burberry person or a Dior person, and so on and so forth. Like, it ends up becoming boring because they start wearing the same house at every event.
at every event, and it's always bad looks. I'm like, those poor Chanel girls. I swear to God.
I feel sorry for the Burberry people. Did you see they got destroyed in the Met Gala because I think Skepta, Stormzy, there's a few of them that were
Burberry missed.
or just by Burberry, and it was all just like that blue plaid, that dark blue plaid stuff. It just looks so bad.
Dude, Burberry missed the Met Gala completely. The winner, brand wise,
was terrible.
Gala was Tom Brown, and the loser was
Tom Brown won.
Was Burberry, hands down. Honestly, I'm like, make custom stuff for your people. It really doesn't. I mean, that's what like Zendaya, for example, and like now she's going to be in Louis Vuitton, and like, you know, there's not a lot of pretty Louis Vuitton dresses for the red carpet, so I'm sure they're going to make her custom every time.
Yeah,
as they should.
Imagine, yeah, that's not gonna happen.
By the way,
Louis Vuitton ready to wear to the red carpet is not.
Watch how a baseball hat makes me look straight.
Oh my God,
dude! Legit. I look straight.
Oh my God, Hanan, you'll actually kill me one day.
Like, Sports Bar Hanan.
Let's talk.
He even wore it backwards for extra effect.
No, you gotta put that on when you pull up some paperwork, like be like stat runner Hanan. Hassan.
But like,
oh my God,
like we can talk about like Lakers, and they lost last night, and I was super.
Yeah.
And then
Anytime you pull
has
out
collab-
social media engagement numbers, you got to put on the hat and go into character.
It is going very much from like, oh my god, Lakers lost last night. Dua Lipa has a collaboration with
Oh my god! Someone
I
said
think that's a
very
great
white
jumping
man
off
can't
point.
jump.
very
Oh my god!
We can't top that tonight. That's
Oh
We've
my
won.
god! Yeah, I think on that note we're gonna end the live stream. That's a perfect note to end the live stream. But thank you to everyone for listening to our shenanigans and talking about the whole Andy situation. And I'll leave it up so you can watch it back.
Yeah. Okay, everybody.
All right, see you guys later.
See you later. Have fun. I'm gonna go be straight. Bye.
Bye.